And we are live. Fantastic. Welcome, everybody, to this very special episode of the Stormkeep Live, where we will be discussing the final Battlescroll for Age of Sigmar 3rd Edition. My name is Paul.
The long-awaited.
Yes,
we don't know that.
This is all speculation. We presume,
Yeah.
I'm presuming, this is the last Battlescroll that we're going to see in 3rd Edition. There's just not enough time for another one, and if one does come out, it would be very minor changes at this point.
Mm-hmm.
This is the meta for the next 4 or 5 months until the new edition comes out, probably. We're also speculating on that. That hasn't been confirmed yet. But this is probably the last one. So that's what we're going to go with. So we have a new face here joining us. Why don't you introduce yourself? Let everybody know who you are.
Hey guys, I'm Dylan. I am from St. Louis. Started in late 2nd edition, and pretty much started with the Dominion box at start of 3rd. And I play a lot of Stormcast. It's pretty much the only army I play. And yeah, I'm a friend of Magonk's, and so he invited me on the show, and I'm happy to be here.
Great. And for people who are tuning in for maybe the first time, let's go around and introduce ourselves. John, go ahead. Start us off.
Hey, I'm John. I think my nickname is Corbs on the Discord. And I've been playing Stormcast. I'd say I'm like sort of an intermediate player. I hadn't played Wargaming before 2.5 years ago, so just after Dominion, around the time actually that Stormcast was getting its first nerfs. So I didn't understand, like, I kind of missed out the best time, and I was like, man, this army is like interesting. It keeps getting all these things changed. But I really like the Golden Boys, and Dragons, of course. So yeah, it's me.
Good call.
I'm Ragonk. I play Stormcast sometimes. So yeah.
It's accurate. Yeah.
Been known to play Stormcast before.
Been known.
And host a podcast with me for almost 3 years now. We're coming up on year 3. That's pretty exciting. Time is flying.
Good God, I'm looking forward to that 8-hour review in about 5 months. So mentally preparing myself.
We're going for double digits.
Oh my goodness.
We just have to, right? Like,
yeah, 10 hours.
And my name is Paul. I play Stormcast. I also play Seraphon, and lately I've been playing Flesh Eater Courts. They're a fun and overpowered army. So I'm trying not to play them too much because it's just they're too strong, right? Like that, we can all agree on that. Flesh Eaters is too good, especially now.
It's a little overtuned, but it's new book syndrome. Like every single death book post Nighthaunt has been totally correct. So that's why I kind of want that Battlescroll that we're supposed to get in 2-3 months, because it'll tone that down a little bit.
Well, okay, sure. If there's a Battlescroll, it nerfs Flesh Eaters, and that's it. I can see that happening. That could just be an errata of Flesh Eaters, though. It doesn't need a whole Battlescroll.
I was gonna say, yeah, it'll probably just be their own thing.
Yeah. Okay, so
they got away with it, though. They got away with it in this Battlescroll. Like,
how did they get buffed?
I think Cities players aren't very happy about that.
I really don't understand. Everybody was saying Flesh Eaters is really good, like too good, like borderline too good to the point where it's not fun to play against. And they went ahead and just buffed it straight across the board, like 70 points off zombie dragons. I can't believe that. Like, I knew they were overcosted, but 70 points is wild. Like, that's crazy.
Is this the biggest point drop of a unit of all time, I believe?
Well, Nagash went down 105. But
okay.
Yeah. Did he actually go down 105?
No, not really. He was just
because he had 40, right?
He had the old price value in the FIC book, so
yeah.
Okay.
70 points off a monster is wild, which is also, I think, right about what I suggested they should do for Stegodons. If you guys recall, they were 300 points, now they're 240, and that's the value I said they should be all along, and now they are, which is great.
It's way more impactful when something in a 350 to 0 to 350 point range drops that much than it is for like a 970 model that drops 70 points. It's like the Tetris list building math changes considerably.
Oh yeah. My gimmick Gristlegore list has 160 points left over now. Like, what?
Oh no!
I knew I bought those 4 zombie dragons for a reason.
I got them now.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to find number 4, and but for the time being, I'll run 3 in Usharan, and that'll be a good time. for me, not my opponent. Reviving those things is so stupid. Okay, I'm not gonna. We'll talk about effect later. So some housekeeping. We have a Night Vexillor painting contest going on right now. The prizes for the contest are Krondis, Annihilators, and Griffhounds, which are fantastic prizes, courtesy of Layton Gaming in Florida. Normally we're sponsored by Kaiju Gaming, but there are things in the works, and I can officially start calling them Layton Gaming now. It's the same guy, new outlet. Officially more details to come soon. But yes, we technically have moved sponsors. But it's just a name change more than anything else. But it gives us more opportunities for prize support like this. Being able to offer Krondis as a prize is pretty sweet, I think. So yeah, if you guys are interested in winning some models, if you have a painted Night Vexillor, you still actually have about a week or so to go. Get it in on the Discord server, and you can win fabulous prizes. That's my Night Vexillor there on the screen. I painted him up a while ago. Pretty happy with how that turned out. So yeah, let us know.
It can be the Dominion model as well, guys. Right?
It could be any of the Night Vexillors. It can even reasonable. Well, it's a painting contest, so
I know. I just mean that mine.
Any Stormcast holding a very nice banner counts as a Night Vexillor.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Like, I don't know if I've ever even seen like the OG Night Vexillor in person. Everybody just uses the Dominion one.
I have them. I never played them, but I have them.
I have 5.
What?
Is that the correct banner?
Wait, you have the OG Fatcast 5 Night Vexillors?
I have 5 of them. I have
you have 5?
2 with the teleport banner.
You were running that comet before this was a thing?
Yeah, I did it in 2nd edition. It was so much fun.
Oh my god!
I had a list that was 5 Vexillors and a Heralder, and then in first edition that list was just 5 Heralders. Because they had the Celestial Warbringer battalion.
Yeah. Okay,
right?
I remember running 3 Heralders because they were really cool. Because Sylvaneth was really strong at the time, and you played them the song to your people, and they died.
Yeah, that's it. It was great. Oh, you made terrain? Thank you. That's so thoughtful. Hey, Juan Gamina, how you doing, buddy? In the chat. Okay, let's move on to the first topic of the day: Battlescroll, February 2024. I'm calling this season 3.5. Season 3 has gone on for a very long time. I think it's going to end in June. That's when I'm anticipating a new edition to launch. So for the rest of this season, we're going to call it season 3.5 to differentiate it from what we had before. What we saw in the core rules FAQ is that a couple things. First off, you can't pick the same unit multiple times with an ability that picks like 3 or 5 or whatever units. This is completely different than what it used to be. The FAQ on this used to say you can pick the same unit unless it says different, and now they've just decided no, it has to specifically say you can pick different ones now, or the same one. I mean, so they've just completely reversed that. Which how many armies does this affect? Like Ideneth,
cities.
Those are the big ones.
Courts.
Yeah.
What would Flesh Eaters pick the same unit?
Doesn't it say like delusions? Doesn't this like FAQ delusions if it's picking 2 different effects?
No, because this is specifically picking the same unit multiple times with an effect that picks multiple times.
Things like I guess Gobapalooza. No, I guess no, because they're different units.
Does Flesh Eaters have anything where it's like pick X and restore 1 model to like each thing? I thought they
Not
did.
anymore. They used to.
Not anymore. Okay.
Yeah. So it doesn't affect much in the game right now, but it's probably long overdue because I was really sick of how it worked in 1st and 2nd edition. That was really annoying.
Wait, what about the Drake Swarm Templar's like eating thing? I guess it says pick D3 units, but remember for a
it's
while
models,
we were talking about
so it's never really been a problem.
Yeah.
Does it affect the other Vexillor, the Apotheosis banner, or does he specifically say you can?
No, he specifically says you can pick the same unit over for this.
That's what I thought.
They make an exception for that, but this is good because it's future-proofing stuff like this. Because you're gonna see like anytime they make this ends up being abused because people are like, oh, it's not different units. So like they did the obvious thing and they were like, nah, we'll just make it future-proof. Boom.
Should have done it years ago, like end of 1st edition, because nobody liked playing against Croak back then when he could pick the same unit multiple times. That was so stupid.
I mean, it's on this slide, Paul, but when we get to it, we'll talk about it. The bodyguard ward thing.
Yeah.
It's taken them 2 years to do this. So since they FAQ'd Praetors, it's taken them 2 years since that Praetor FAQ to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's just jump into that one. All bodyguard abilities, anything that changes the allocation of a wound from one unit to another unit, those are all just wards. And awesome. We did it. We've been talking about this for like 2 years, right? Like they should just all be wards. Easy.
Yes.
Yeah. So finally, Praetors are now the best bodyguard in the game because not only everybody gets screwed over by anti-ward abilities, right? So if you have something like what's the name of the OBR spell that takes away wards or reduces them by 1? I forget. They have some spell.
The endless spell, right?
Yeah.
Bone Tide Shrieker.
It's the Shrieker? Okay. So the Shrieker and like Argath, King of Blades, and things that disable wards, they affect everything that uses bodyguard rules now. But Praetors are also ignoring half the wounds they take, right? Because on a 3-up, you take the wound, and on a 5 or 6, you just ignore it. So they transfer over 2/3 of the damage and ignore half of it. So they are actually the best bodyguards in the game, right? Math it out, they're the best.
Matt Chat makes a good point. Fire Slayer.
Do you think it's better than
works.
Hearthguard? I think Hearthguard bodyguard are slightly better, but that's a retinue bodyguard. That's a very special type because you get a 3-up pass off and a 4-up ward.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. They're better. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have to pass it off first and then 4-up ward after that, right? So it does require 2 separate
Correct.
rolls. So it's not like they're ignoring 3/4 of the damage they take. They still ignore half the damage. So it's actually identical to Praetors.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, better if there's an anti-ward ability. Okay, so they're tied for best, which is good. Finally, Stormcast have a niche. Which is just in time because they buffed Karazai too, right? So obviously that's the new list. What else was changed? Objective control. I remember we talked about this in the FEC review. We're like, we don't know if this is correct because technically checking objectives happens at the end of the turn, and so do a bunch of different effects, and it's never mattered really what order they happen in until the Chalice came around. And now that the Chalice is here, FEC players be stealing every objective right out from under you. Oh, you didn't fully kill that unit of 40 ghouls? I'm sorry, you lost the objective. You're now down in like at least 1 VP, and the game's over. Like, it's so stupid. But it's good to have it clarified, right? No more arguing about that. Great. They also, finally, after so many years, added a spell ward kind of thing where you can only have 1 spell ignore instead of having like 5 at once. That was the limit, right? I think some unit in the game was able to get like 4 or something.
Yeah,
Probably.
It was. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been
Some slaves thing, right? Like
Slaves of
and
Darkness
Siege
thing.
Mark.
Yeah. They had like a 5-up ignore for 6-up ignore from Zinch, 5-up ignore for the Demon Prince, and then they could take that command trait that just gave them like an ignore or something.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Finally, the slaves nerf we all needed. Finally.
Right as they give us access to being able to stack it on our dragons too.
That's
They're like,
honestly, that's
nope.
probably why. Yeah, that's probably why they did it, because they're like, otherwise, like Khorne is going to be rolling 2 5-ups for every spell.
We can give it to dragons? How?
They have it. So they have it
Ignored.
naturally, and then
Yeah.
new Endorian Acolyte or Wizard Finders.
None of the dragons can go in there though, right?
Stormdrake Guard can.
No, they're
They
not
have a
infantry.
behemoth slot.
Yeah, there's 2 troops. Wait,
It has
are
to be
those
There's a
infantry.
behemoth
Are those
slot. Right?
No way.
You can't put Tempesters in there. It's
They're
specifically
not behemoth,
infantry.
though.
Yeah, they're.
Okay.
Wait, fuck.
They're-
Maybe they don't go in.
They're troops, but they're not infantry. Otherwise,
Maybe I'm just-
I would have been taking this all the time with Fulminators and
yeah, you might be
Dracolites,
right. You might be right.
for sure.
I hate the GHB battalions so much. I always get them mixed up what can go in there and what can't.
It's the worst because like you need a
Really
champion,
confusing.
and then the champion can't be unique.
Yeah. It's only
Can't
infantry.
be
you're right.
mounted.
Ugh.
It can't be mounted.
Yeah. Does not
like
have
so
mounts
many-
infantry. Yep.
Below 10 wounds can't be mounted. Like all sorts of things.
I'm really hoping we get good battalions next edition. That's like number 1 thing I care about. That's got to happen. All right, so General's Handbook errata. Wizard Finders gives a 5-up spell ignore. How many units realistically does this affect? Not many. Almost nobody was using Wizard Finders.
Yeah.
But if you're doing things like Quester spam, you can give Questers a 5-up spell ignore, which is actually really good against Blizzard, right? If you ignore 1 in 3 Blizzards, that's pretty cool. Like sometimes that 5-up roll just wins you the game because
I
they
say it's kind of like fun. I don't know if it's necessarily like good. It's like a strict buff for that kind of style, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's enough to like actually make a difference.
It makes me consider putting like Flayers in there because one thing Flayers always die to is Blizzard. So a 5-up spell ignore on top of a 5-up ward really makes them a lot more durable. And they get +1 attack sometimes against wizards. Like if you're fighting I don't know. Nobody uses zombie dragons from Soulblight anymore, but maybe like a Feck mirror. You've got the advantage.
Manfred, Nagash, I think are both very relevant.
Yeah, Nagash.
I can't even roll the 4+ with the Stormkeep deck. It doesn't help me.
Yeah. This had to be like, now that we're nerfing OBR spell ignore, finally we can give it to other armies. So I think yeah, it's okay. I don't know, a little too little too late. I think this hasn't even been really a Magic dominated season. All the top armies are like Khorne, KO, Seraphon, Starborn, I guess, but they're not just killing you with spells. Like they're mostly just cleansing the realms at you, and that's how they're killing you for the most part.
I'm thinking of who runs blocks of infantry that could possibly want this, and the only thing that already don't have like good unbinds, and I guess like it's us, Slaves to Darkness. Maybe Idnet Deepkin. Like, but the thing is, Idnet
Deepkin
like
needs
those
one
armies.
drop too much.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think both Deepkin and DOK are so funneled into having the lowest drops possible, but that they can't afford.
Yeah, they're not using it.
Slaves to Darkness might be able to, maybe.
Any horde unit, like think about reinforced Ard Boys with a 5+ spell ignore. There's going to be a lot of like, if given enough time, I think people are going to start pivoting into hordes now, because Blizzard just kills anything under 20 wounds, right? So I think
Sure, but think about it this way, right? Nobody's gonna run. So the way you're thinking about it is wrong, because what people are doing with Ard Boys now is they always bring Big Wall, and they always bring that the Cruel Boys Vulture that has like 2 unbinds and does like D6 mortal wounds every time it unbinds.
Mhm.
And with that, they're not really that scared of spells. Like, not scared enough to take this battalion.
no, but
Go ahead.
Well, they got the +1 attack too, right? That could be relevant, especially for Ard Boys. Like they just pump out damage at that point.
Honestly, the
Amount
whole
of
trick is making
targets.
the enemy come to them, not the other way around. They're not going seeking something. So like the chances of them, your opponent knowing that, oh god, that these are these 3+ Ard Boys, I'm gonna send my wizard into them. That's probably not likely to happen unless they really can't help it.
Teleport, Mighty Destroyer, 5-inch charge with +1.
Sure, but that still is likely to hit a screen.
You got to wrap the wizard,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
not great.
It's not great. Like I would much rather double
Yeah.
drop
This
in and
would've-
then
This would have been cool as like a 5+ dispel or something. Like something really
No.
powerful.
I think if they wanted to
You don't
push
think
this,
so?
this is gonna sound bad, but no, it's like they should have made it a 4+.
Just done it 4.
Like,
yeah, that
Yeah,
too.
you have to
This just isn't
really
good
push
enough.
battalions. Yeah,
And
you
it's
have to
already
be like,
so limited on what can go in it that I mean, like
Yes.
we were literally just talking about it, like stuff
Yeah.
we thought can go in it
Nothing.
can't. And so stuff that like wants to sit on objectives, like Stormkeep, like Ard Boys, like
Mhm.
if they actually had like a reliable way to not just be like, oh, your 100-point wizard can just sit here and blow up my entire unit, like who cares? Like that would be pretty nice, and like it's kind of going in that direction, but I don't really think it's enough.
There's a lot of other ways to push this too. If they got rid of the leader slot entirely, or made it like a full leader, not like a sub commander champion, specifically non-priest, non-wizard. So like if like you could just stick a Maw Crusher in here, people would take this.
Yeah, then it would be real good, I think.
Yeah,
but
but
that's the thing. Like you have to unlock it somehow. It can't be this restrictive and only 1/3 of the time. I think you have to make it
It's
either
not
half the
enough.
time and be really restrictive, or
Yeah.
no restrictions at 1/3 of the time.
even then, it still probably wouldn't see play because there's the top armies don't use magic. Khorne, KO, Stormcast don't really hit you with spells. Feck is mostly buffing spells for themselves. Like
Cities.
yeah, it's like most spells in the game aren't offensive. They're defensive, or they get around this somehow, right? Like they're indirectly affecting you. So it has to give some
Yeah.
kind of bonus that's useful in every situation, or at least most situations. Like maybe, oh, it's not good against Gargants. Okay, that's the limit where people are like, if it's not good against Gargants, do I really want it? Like I got to think about it. But if it's any more broad than that, people don't consider it, right? Like it's got to be universal.
Alternatively, this could have just also been, if instead of just being a spell ignore, maybe this could have been a, like, if you take any damage from spells, you have a 4+ ward against them, or a 5+ ward against them.
I don't know. I almost think that's
Like the
kind of
Slaves
like
to Darkness thing.
yeah, it's like that, but it's also like kicking the magic armies while they're down, right? Because like we're talking
That's
about,
true.
like
Yeah.
magic damage armies aren't that great right now, so like we don't really need.
You're right. I mean, Zinj players, I think Joe Pryor would kill me if I. So, if Joe, if you're watching this, I take that back. We should have this.
It could be like the hero in the battalion has +1 to unbind for each unit that's in the battalion. You know what I mean? Like make a really powerful Wizard Finder hero. More hero customization in general would be good.
Yes.
Lewis
+3 to unbind.
Lewis in the chat asks, Vexilor's target of comet ability would be affected by the Serati? I think he's talking about the pick different units thing. No, the Vexilor just does damage to everything. It doesn't pick a certain amount of units. So the Vexilor is somehow completely unchanged, despite our best efforts. There is a new battle tactic for armies without wizards. It's written here. Basically, if you have a Nullstone Adornment, at some point during the game, you're going to score this for 2 VP, unless your hero dies to Night Vexilors, of course. Unfortunate, but it happens. But this is actually a really good... This is what I'm talking about. It needs to be universal, right? If you're playing a Nullstone army, this works in every game. Every single game you play, you can score this.
This should have been from the beginning.
Yeah.
This tactic's so weird to me, right? Because like the armies that use it, you know, Khorne KO come to mind right off the bat. They don't need it like at all. Like they're fine on tactics because it's not a turn 1 tactic for Khorne, so they don't really care. And KO is the last army that needs to be worrying about battle tactics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's good. It's a great tactic, right? But like, what is it actually doing?
It's for Fire Slayers.
Yeah,
Fire Slayers.
Fire Slayers and Suns really like it.
It's to stop it's to stop people bringing allied wizards, right? That's the intent, I think.
Yeah.
And it opens up giving
the
priests
thing.
general again in Stormcast, which I think we all want to be doing and haven't done in a really long time.
The question is, would you rather have Magic Dom and a priest or this and Nullstone Adornment?
I mean, Magic Dom and a
I
wizard.
think I want Magic Dom and a wizard. Sorry, yeah, I think I want Magic Dom because Mystic Shield is really good.
Yeah,
it depends on the army, and I think if this wasn't added and people didn't start going Nullstone, you'd see more and more stuff like the Lore Seeker or Bastion teleporting a wizard just within 30 inches of all your wizards just to deny the Magic Dom. Because this right now the game's in a state where people are getting 5 out of 5 tactics. Dropping down on primary usually doesn't end the game, but dropping a tactic usually does. Right? Like,
yes, but also I love and hate this battle tactic. I like how they're doing something for armies so they aren't forced to ally wizards in. Like I really love the Khorne change. We'll talk about it, but it's like my problem with this is like this is one of those things that like needs to go for the armies that do sort of care about it. It needs to go right for you to start worrying about it. What's like, I have to have this hero. I have to have him with a Nullstone Adornment. I have to have them survive. Then I have to have them move on to an objective that was controlled by my opponent. My opponent knows, you know, where that hero is, and so they know what that tactic allows them to do. And if the idea was to cover a turn 1 tactic by armies that don't have that option of magical dominance open, this is not that. So what I worry about is if you're not a Khorne, and we'll discuss why if you're not Khorne, you don't care about this. Like it's a nice thing to have. Like Gargants will use it. I think like I'm happy for them. They're not just doing like I guess intimidate the invaders turn 1 or something. But this tactic I don't see it seeing play over Magic Dom. Like even as a Fire Slayers player, sometimes like I played Fire Slayers sometimes, so it's like I would much rather take a Knight Incanter and take Magical Dominance turn 1 because it lets me do it from the safety of how I want to move turn 1 outside of Unbind range.
Yeah.
And the meta isn't like chasing Primal Dice right now, so really the Nullstone you're going to take is the one that just gives you an Unbind, which Arcane Tome does that. Arcane Tome just gives you an Unbind already.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I also think it's weird that they're creating a dichotomy here between like wizard armies and not wizard armies. Like I guess that was the theme of this season, but it never panned out because the Nullstone stuff is far too weak. And maybe probably what they should have done is like you can have a Nullstone, but the Nullstone just shuts off wizards within some range. So you can't like keep this unit together with your other wizards. You know what I mean? It's like it's too much of a distinction because it's like if I go for the Nullstone stuff and my opponent doesn't have wizards, like if it's Khorne versus KO, neither of them are happy about their army choices, right? Or it's like you're playing against Gargants. They have maybe one spell. Like you don't care about stopping it. The Nullstone stuff overall has been a pretty big miss, I think. But it has been an interesting experiment, I guess. I don't know what else to say about it. This tactic is not enough. I agree with you, Murgonk. And we'll talk about Fire Slayers. I'm pretty excited about that, actually. And the last change in the General's Handbook is that Power Flux works the way everybody assumed it should work, right? It was pretty silly that it worked that way. We're not even going to bother talking about this change, really, because most people already played it this way casually and most games. The only time this mattered is if it was in a tournament pack, and it almost never came up. I know James is going to hate me for saying that because he lost a game to it, but it really, most people just played it the other way. It was pretty silly that it worked that way. So, okay, let's jump into specific army changes, and we'll start with the cities of Sigmar, which somehow got point drops. Like, it's weird seeing green here, right? That's a strange thing to see. But let's talk errata first. So, a lot of stuff that we expected. In the FAQ, it clarifies that Talia and the receiving unit both need to be in combat to get a 4-up rally. I know we got that question a few times. Zenestra can't pick the same effect twice, which is an FAQ, I guess, and not an errata. So I guess I was reading it wrong before. I guess. I don't know. But yeah, definitely can't do the same effect twice. Blazing Weapons only affects melee, which is like army defining that ability.
I would. Yeah,
crazy.
make it only affect missile weapons. Keep it in that type of army
Yeah.
build. Like, why did they do it this way?
For those watching, Corbs bought 40 Fusiliers. Plays with the other guy.
Exactly. It just doesn't make sense.
Make it only affect Stormcast weapons. That's the only fair thing to do, right?
Yeah, agreed.
No, but for real though, like it's a really good change from like a balance perspective. People hate going up against shooting armies like this. Like I can't imagine people are gonna have a good time against 30 Fusiliers if they didn't have a good time against like
30 Sentinels.
I was gonna say it's just Sentinels too.
Yeah,
like...
it's just Helon Sentinels were bad. This is bad. What I don't like though is like, okay, if Fusiliers aren't gonna be as good anymore because they're just like regular shooters now, 3s and 3s. Actually, no, 4s and 4s, -1, 1.
4s and 4s.
Drop them back down. Why'd they go up 20 points? Drop them down.
The same reason Stormdrakes are still 340. You know I'm right.
But are there different people making these decisions? You know, like they just don't seem
it's
to
like
synergize
Stormdrakes did
together.
dominate a tournament circuit for about 6 months, but like, yeah, these guys.
No, I missed that.
The top 8 at LBO was like, what the hell is a Fusilier? I've never heard of it. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Right. They were like, yeah, Fusiliers are good. We're gonna play the other shit that's good too.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
better.
I really like this in terms of army identities, because I've been writing the faction identity slides lately, and one of them was like, when I got to the cities, I'm like, it's Lumineth, but better. Right? Like, it does the same thing. It's just better at it. It's like, how that, okay. But now that this is only melee, it's a lot more different. Like, Lumineth are the long-range mortal wound ping you army, right? That's cool. They still got that thing. They're not great right now, but maybe with Techless and Sentinels getting cheaper, that might change. Overall, good change. I don't think anybody enjoyed playing against the Fusilier blobs. They just, except Stormcast, we had a great time, right? Like, we got long strikes, we can outrange them, we can snipe the heroes with Vexillars. Like, we did okay, but oh man, imagine playing Fire Slayers into that. That was brutal.
So I guess the question becomes like, what's the go-to Blazing Weapons unit? Is there one, or do you just take the 4 Forger for +1 to save and just say screw the spell? Who cares?
You take +1 to save 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And then you cast +1 Mystic Shield, I guess.
Right. Like, does he ever even cast this anymore? Like, is the
No.
Steel Helm
Warforger
mean
never
green?
cast anything.
Like,
You can, like, that's the thing. You do +1 save aura a
mhm.
bunch of times, and then when it becomes relevant, you can, if there's like one target you can concentrate everything on, then you could potentially go Blazing Weapons on like a double offensive turn.
yeah.
It's got to be
But
a
the
real
Warforger
strong.
is basically a Lord Castellan now. He's a Lord Castellan and an aura. That's it.
But like, just cast Blizzard. Like, obviously
That's
a bit
true.
of a difference in casting value.
That's
but,
true.
Like,
No, I mean that's true. Honestly, like every list that I know at least is taking a Warforger and a Battle Mage, so they always have that option regardless of both.
mhm.
Yeah.
Do we start bringing the Warforger? He's 100 points, cheapest wizard,
Doesn't
Plus
work
one-
on us.
Why?
The
plus
+1
one
save
cast,
doesn't work.
+1 cast Mystic Shield.
20 points for an
Yeah, I
encounter.
guess our battle mage.
And he's an
doesn't do that
acolyte.
anymore.
Just take
Yeah,
a Battle Mage.
The
bro.
model's cool.
Just take-
The model's cool.
Warforger is better, right? In some way,
I
Has
guess.
more wounds?
I don't
something.
think so. But
There's some
okay.
difference.
Is it a better save? He must have a better save. I bet you he has a 4, not a 5. Doesn't the battle mage have a 5?
It was
Battle Mage has a
3.
5. I don't know about the Warforger. He's
He has a 3.
No, I'm kidding.
4.
I don't know.
So 4 is good.
Maybe.
I
I
don't
don't
see
know.
why you would ever do it instead of
Warforger's
encounter.
a 5. No, guys, let's not get crazy. Warforger's a 5. Okay. The only thing he does better than the Battle Mage, I think he fights better on foot or something like that.
Sure. It's just never going to happen.
Like the Battle Mage has
cares?
1 attack at D3 damage, -1. I think he has 3. That's it. I want to say.
You know, one thing they've done a good job at is nerfing wizard melee attacks in this edition. Like, I was so sick of second edition. Dylan and Mergonk, back me up. Sometimes a necromancer would just like kill 5 liberators, and you're like, what? What?
How?
Because he had like 4d3 damage total that could spike high.
Yeah, like if all of his attacks went through.
And it was on like
They
4s and 3s
randomly
or
do
something.
this now. They still do this. Like I didn't realize it, but like until recently, because I was in a Discord and someone talked about it. Torgilus the Chamberlain, the guy who provides the 5 award, he's this decrepit old necromancer. He has a 2 damage shooting attack, like 2d6 shots or something.
Whoa.
He
Wow.
could wipe out a unit.
Then
of
you got
liberators.
stuff like a Swamp Call
Yeah.
Shaman, where like if it's in the right spot and it spikes, it just does 20 mortal wounds out of nowhere. And you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, guess I lose.
Yeah.
Well, that's just the Cruel Boys
It's
army in
wild.
general. Sometimes it just does
Yeah.
20 mortal wounds and you lose. Other times you
But
don't roll
I-
any
like,
5s or 6s.
I have a serious question about cities though. Like, and like I have a bunch of cities models, but more as allies. Like, it feels like everything they got that was new and unique and fun has been sort of like changed very quickly and kind of like neutered. And I don't know. Like, I'm sure they'll rise above and figure it out. But from the outside, that's what it looks like. Is that
Fusiliers
what's
was
happened here?
the obvious. Yeah. It was Fusiliers the obvious target, but really what needed to be neutered did not get neutered,
Command Corps.
which is to say the command core.
Yeah.
It went up in points,
Yeah,
but really there's
but
nothing
they're still
stopping
going
you
to
from
take
doing.
2, right?
Yeah, like I think most armies will most of the time you'll try to take 2, and it makes it a really degenerate ally too. If you're the
But you
kind of
can't
army that can afford
heal.
it.
You can't use the heal on a unit twice if you have 2.
You can.
Command
Each
cores,
unit
can
you?
pick
Oh, you
3.
can.
So
Yeah,
if you have
You
because
just
each
can't
can
pick
heal
the same
itself
unit
and
with
another.
one.
Yeah,
Right,
so
so
you
you
heal
just-
yourself and you
yeah.
heal other, and the
Yeah.
other one does the same. And
Okay, great. So taking 2 is still amazing.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's
But that's like the only thing that survived, really. Like, think about all the other stuff.
I
But-
mean, Cavalier's still good. Griffin didn't get changed.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, I
it
love
kind
that.
of opened up the
Griffin.
Talia Steelhelm meme dream list that like I hope is good, but I don't think it is.
probably not.
They just
it might
have,
be. I
like-
haven't tried it. But Hammerhall
Build
Gyra
it.
might be playable with them on 10 bravery.
Yeah.
That might be playable. But really, yeah. If I look at the guy who won LVO, Jeremy Lefebvre, I think his list is 2,000 on the nose now, or like 21.
I'm pretty sure I played against, if not his exact list, an extremely similar list this weekend with the Battlescroll update, and like
Yeah.
Mm.
beat me, kicked my ass.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's like the army still does what it's supposed to really well, which is it has access to a range of command abilities that cannot be denied,
mhm.
Yeah,
and it has
right.
hidden command abilities, and like
Mhm.
that's the
And
best. thing.
Those are
sometimes
fun.
you
Those
just
are cool.
spike the command core deny on like a really important redeploy, or you
Yeah,
spike a
like
counter charge,
not
or
even
something
that.
like
Like
that.
this is such a command heavy. Like imagine going up against Fire Slayers, shooting that Hard Guard or Volkite block to pieces, and they go, okay, I'm gonna 4-up rally, which is the only tool I have against shooting, and you go no on a 4-up no.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Like oh
Yeah.
Oh my
it's,
God.
It's too impactful to have no range, just deny the command, get rid of the command point too, which is like, oh, okay. It's so crippling, right?
There's just
so
and
literally
there's
no
once per
counterplay
game
to
command
it.
abilities in this game. There's like holy commands. There's like
Yeah, holy
commands
commands. Like, what?
yeah. There's
playing-
other commands that can be issued only once per game, and it's like cool. Catacross 480 point paperweight, just 4-up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like what?
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks for the cities players too, because like it's like you have so much strength in just this random 4-up. Like you fail a couple of them in a row, and you're like, what is this unit even doing?
The real
Like-
real problem with cities now is that like it's a 1,600 point army, but that could be like any order army that brings cities as allies, right? It's like, so what's
Yes.
the best army to bring command corps? It's almost the reverse problem that cities had before, which was like, oh, it's the best vehicle for Stormcast delivery unit. And now it's like, well, what's the best army to deliver command corps? Right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that army's going to be. It might be Stormcast because we just have good stats to make up for the inefficiency of that. So, thankfully, the
maybe
meta
Stormkeep becomes playable with the 2 command core.
maybe. I don't even think you need Stormkeep for that, honestly.
No, you don't need it, but I'm like, it makes it playable because you can just like, oh, great, KO's gonna fly in my face and try to shoot me. No, 4-up, fly high denied.
Yeah, it's pretty silly.
Oh, you fail a charge against my 10 Vindictors on this guy? Oh, no, 4-up, no rerolls.
I also strongly dislike how random it is. Like, games are now just one based on which commands they do and don't ignore, which is like
Yeah.
crazy.
And the range. The range is silly.
Yeah.
Board
That it's
wide,
just like-
why?
you can't do anything about it.
We could run 2 command corps, stick them in corners of the battlefield, have them score over time, intimidate the invaders, surround and destroy, and then eventually our grand strategy to have 2 cities units alive.
Yeah. Just hiding in the 2 corners.
Yeah.
And it's not
your
easy to
home
kill
corners.
them. These aren't like
No,
I'll
it's true.
just throw like some random shooting unit at them to try to kill them.
No.
Nope.
No, you're hard committing.
Because it's what, 18 wounds on a 3-up?
18 wounds.
Yeah.
On a
On
4 up.
4.
18
On a
wounds on a
4-up,
4 up,
still.
and
They
they're
can
not
heal.
trumps at fighting. If you send like a Kinerai unit to fight them, they'll have an attack that's like 2s and 2s, -2 d6, and the Arch Knight has like 4 attacks at 3s and 3s, -1. They do better damage than Liberators, basically. is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
definitely. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Each model has more wounds than Liberators too, which is really frustrating. Okay, so that's enough about Command Corps. It's obviously dumb, but thankfully it's only going to last like 4 months. Hopefully the indexes fix it. We'll say that. Which we might get indexes, we might not. Seems like most people are preferring them based on the poll so far. In the chat, we've got do you want indexes for the next edition? A lot of people are upset about them because in 40k they haven't worked out the best, but it would be a lot worse without them for sure. Anyway, off topic. Point changes for cities. So they definitely got nerfed overall. But then the Warforger is cheaper. The Fusel Major on Warhulk is cheaper. Like all this stuff that went into the Fusilier package got cheaper, right? Fusiliers themselves didn't, but the stuff that supported it did. But it's just dead. Like that's not a viable playstyle. Cannons are 140. Any play there are still just not good.
I
think they're
wouldn't say
fine
Fusiliers are completely dead. I just think like again, I think they need to be cheaper, but I think like a block of 20 has some uses. Like range damage is always useful. Like the utility of range damage should not be underestimated.
That's true. Yeah, even bad shooting is still like Night Haunt used crossbows for a while just because there's so
like,
much utility in it.
It's like even if I'm playing pure melee cities with orders for countercharging or whatever, sometimes it's just nice to be able to remove like key units that your opponent uses to score with, and then they're forced to be aggressive, which you can use to your advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and they still have the ignore rend thing
Mhm.
from shooting attacks. Pretty strong.
That is true. Yes, that is true.
How many points are Steel Helms compared to Fusiliers? Because like it could be like the old Gloomspite gets Shootas Stabas problem, where you just always take Shootas because they're close enough in points that it doesn't matter.
Steel Helms are
Steel
100.
Helms are 100.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so then
yeah.
never mind.
No.
They're no witch elves or ghouls, I'll tell you that much. Steam tanks got more expensive. I think the Steam tank build really surprised everyone, and that was awesome. It was a really good build. Especially because they figured it out in light of all these nerfs to cities that at LVO they had a lot of house rules in place for.
Did like I feel like everybody knew how busted Steam
Really?
tanks were.
I
think that,
I slept on it completely.
I mean, we talked about it briefly.
I
We're
thought
like,
we
I think
talked
Steam
about it.
tanks
I
were,
remember
yeah,
talking
we were like,
about
guys,
it.
Steam
Yeah.
tanks are really, really good. The problem is
Yeah.
no one could buy any. So we were like, okay, maybe this list won't show up because just like the Splintered Fang problem, Games Workshop doesn't have enough in store, but it did show up.
My
Yeah,
lawyer has
they're
instructed me to
intense.
say that I do not recall. Yeah, so Talia's 300 points, probably not good enough. Wilder Core Hunters, it's easier to get the Rend bonus on them because instead of being holy, I think they had to be in cover. Now they just have to be within 1 inch. And I hope that's a preview of all cover rules going forward. I really hope they just change cover to be simpler and easier and more impactful because I love save bonuses. They're great. They're the best. Okay. Anything else to say about cities? I feel like we're going to talk about this one a lot because there's just a lot to talk about, but let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. Daughters of Cain, they have been struggling for a long time. They were really, really good at the start of this season because they had the easiest battle tactics. Like I think they were up at like 55% win rate. Like, and people were trying to argue that they were like a really good army. I'm like, no, guys, they're just winning on tactics. Their army just crumbles. They lose every engagement. The army is bad. The tactics are good. This won't last. People will eventually score 5 out of 5 tactics. They'll adjust, and then Daughters will be a bad army. And that's exactly what happened. Real quick, we have an FAQ that Crystal Touch happens before you allocate wounds, which we already knew that. I don't know why they had to say it again. And also, it's technically wrong. That actually isn't how the game works. This is another example of the FAQ being wrong. The reason this doesn't work is because if this was true, the hunger would heal 0 wounds because the hunger happens at the exact same time, and you can't have the hunger happen before wound allocation. So obviously this is not correct. Hopefully they'll I don't think they'll fix it at this point. Like, it doesn't matter. We're the only ones complaining about it. So.
This is a load bearing FAQ, and it's like brute forcing the answer. But it's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine, I guess. Everybody knows how it
like
works.
Yeah.
Okay, so what got cheaper? Marathi, which I'm not happy about it. I hate Marathi. I hope to never see Marathi on the table again. That's my sincere hope for my life. The cauldrons got cheaper, the Bloodwrack Shrine got cheaper, and the Warband got cheaper. Are people using it?
That's like the roar one, right? Where it's like they randomly pick a thing and like on a 3-up they can't get commands or something. Is it that one or is it the other one?
I have no idea. Honestly, I think this
It one might just be the teleport one.
Yeah, they have a teleport one, right?
I was gonna say it's either the teleport one or the weird roar one. I can never remember which one's which.
Yeah, no.
That's such a weird thing to change.
Warband. Shadeborn is the Underworld Warband. It does basically nothing. It's
Why?
the same as the Warcry Warband. They didn't really innovate there.
Why is it 200 points now? Why did they care about this Underworld's Warband?
They want to sell them. I guess they have some overstock. I don't know.
And say why not?
You know, there's another warband
mean,
that could use a point cut.
I mean, there's one that's like, I think Slitile, the hero from that warband, is like, you have to do a bravery check for no commands. It's on a 2d6. But it's bad. Like, why would daughters play this? Like, no.
Weird things change.
Yeah.
Bloodwrack Shrines are good. Like, legit good. And at 160 now, they're like Chariot price, which is aggressively cheap for that unit. I don't think the meta's going to have enough time to really, for people to figure out Daughters of Cain. I think there's going to be like, 3 big events left until the new edition. There's Adepticon, whatever local GTs you're going to. There's not a lot, right? We're not going to see much in terms of innovation. I hope I'm wrong. Innovation's awesome. I love seeing like wacky stuff that people bust out, but probably not enough time for people to figure out how good Bloodwrack Shrines are.
I think the only person who plays anything close to like an innovative list is like Dale from Chumphammer. I think his Twitter handle is Chumphammer, and he plays, I want to say, like 30 Witch Elves in a big kill block and 5 Avatars of Cain.
Mm-hmm.
And he's played Daughters for as long as I've known him. I think I met him first in 2019 or 2020 LVO, just before the pandemic, and he's been playing Daughters since. And like, they know what they're doing. Like they and even after leveraging every single bit of movement, 4 years of experience with Daughters of Cain, our army just doesn't cut it anymore against some of the big players. The defenses just aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been power crept really badly. I know I complained about Stormcast getting power crept, but man, some other armies really had it worse. If Adnath didn't just get constant point cuts, they'd be in the exact same position as Daughters right now.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. We have Fire Slayer. Speaking of point cuts, hey, just green across the board. And also, the core problem of the army, Volkite Berserkers, can now fight in 2 ranks. 2-inch range.
Huge.
Beautiful.
Huge.
Oh my god. Get ready for a lot of Volkites. Because 10 of those guys can do a ton of damage.
You're going to see 30 blocks with Flamekeepers again.
You think 30? I would just go MSU, like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, all the way across the board. Just keep throwing one away every turn.
Actually, I do remember a person running what you're talking about. He ran, I think, 1 block of 30 and then a bunch of 10s to juice up the Flamekeepers. And now that all of those are fighting in 2 ranks, ooh,
it's so much damage. So Vostarg, especially in the cities meta, Vostarg gives you +1/+1 if you charged with them, which makes them all on 2s and 2s. There's no rend on that baseline, but there's a rune for that. But that's still, 30... 3 attacks apiece, and you buff up their damage with the Flamekeeper. So what's that? 62 damage if you buff them with the Flamekeeper.
From a 150 point unit. Yep.
Yeah, a throwaway 150 point unit, and when it dies, it gets recycled basically and turned into more Flamekeeper buffs because you've got so many of these units sitting.
No. That's 62 damage, and then it fights when it dies.
Yes.
So you can engage more things.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. I'm glad finally Magma Drops are getting cheaper. They've been like 20% overpriced forever. I think it's because they were spammed for a while, right? People spammed Magma Drops when the book came out.
Yeah, people played 5 Drots in Lofnir or 4 Drots in Lofnir.
It wasn't actually good though, right?
No.
Yeah, it was okay.
No. They hit on 4s. That's all you need to hear.
Yeah, they hit on 4s. The best thing about them is like the hero on top, like magma blood, sure, but the minute you introduce like shooting into the game, they just die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're it wasn't great. Doomseekers just keep getting cheaper. 70-point hero territory now. Sure.
Oh my god, dude.
Why not?
I know
Sure.
Vermiuser is gonna spam him because I know he was already running a weird list with like 4 Doomseekers and 3 Grimrat Berserkers. So there is a point to be made about spamming Doomseekers now. You could spam like 5 or 6 of them, and it's like cool, 300 points. I'll do a bunch of damage against something.
Yeah, just make sure you keep them in cohesion.
What?
You got so many; they're now a unit. Like it's fine.
No, I mean, yeah, I just declare, okay, everyone, all of these have taken an oath to destroy, whatever this unit is, and then you just push them as close to the unit as you can, or something.
Good point. Cuts all across. There's not a lot of Fire Slayer players, so I don't know if this is gonna pick up very quickly, unless you want to bring a Murgonk and quickly 5-0 and show everyone that this was a mistake.
No, I don't think so. Like, I do, but I don't want to paint that many Volkites. I don't have them. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I have them, but they're not painted, and like 30 Volkites painting is gonna take me forever. So it's like I'm not gonna commit to that right
But
now.
you have an airbrush.
Well, that's true. I just do have an
Just
airbrush
flesh everything,
Yeah.
and then contrast hair, and then the base, and you're done. It's good enough.
now. Dang. Now you make a tempting argument, but
Yeah.
someone at Adepticon will. Like, I think, like, yeah, there's like a lot of pro players. I know, like, at least 2 that really love Fire Slayers. Someone's gonna try making like just a Volkite spam list, and it's gonna wreck a lot of melee armies.
Yeah.
This is why I kind of like Cometfall, because it's like I can just like kill all your heroes, do the splash mortal wounds, take out a bunch of bravery concerns and stuff. But
Yeah, the first 3 comets kill the Battlesmith, and then the comet kills everything else.
yeah,
Great.
basically.
And then your command corps deny the 4-up rally, and you're good.
Oh God.
Yeah.
It's great. I wish this came out in September or even December, so we'd have another 2 months
Yeah.
to play this. The timing, this is good changes overall. Honestly, the army needed it. It just feels a little too late, It's a shame. Ideneth. So they nerfed Bloodthirsty Shivers. Some people call this a buff. I think it's a nerf. Instead of adding an extra hit that needs to wound and save, now it just auto wounds. So it turns them into ghouls effectively. So that is making them more accurate, which isn't really that much of a help. I guess it is, but it's really reducing their max damage by it's like going from 117% to 100%. What kind of drop is that? Like, it sounds like 17%, but it's not. I swear, it's not actually that. Okay,
Thing is,
but
it just made sharks not fun. Like, they had them having like how many attacks do they have on that harpoon thing? 4, 3 or 4,
Yeah.
something like that. But it's
4.
like, imagine like 10 sharks doing that to you. It's like cool, like
Yeah.
40 shots and every 6 explode, and it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Um,
it could spike high,
probably
which was
why.
crazy.
Mhm.
Then the other change is that Tsunami of
The
Terror.
range is the problem with the sharks too.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
range.
because it's effective like 34, right? It's basically unlimited. It's like 38. Might as well
can't
be
hide.
unlimited.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
huge.
in a turn they get a run and charge, so then they get another 6 on that. It's
Oh,
just-
that's true. Yeah,
Or
run and shoot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, bring Vigilors, give them
But
all
it's
plus
still,
1 hit.
it is still shooting and melee, right? They didn't change that.
I believe so.
It is both, but yeah,
Okay.
it is both,
That's
but it
good.
is now auto
Yeah.
wound instead of there's
No,
no
it's
auto
explosions.
wound.
Which,
It has to
Instead
be
of plus
units
1.
in the Shiver. It's not just all sharks, right? It has to be the Shiver
yeah, it
units.
has to be that
Yeah.
3 separate ones taken.
Right.
The shivers, yeah.
So you have to bring them in packs
Okay.
of 3. So you can't like bring 8 sharks and do that.
Yeah.
3, 6, 9. Okay. Tsunami of Terror is now an 18-inch range, which makes the aspect of the sea a lot easier to use because 12-inch range was terrible. And it picks 3 different units, which is worse because previously you would high roll this and roll a d3 and then pick the same unit and get rend plus 3 rend effectively, and your thralls would be rend 4 and you would just murder whatever you touch it. So yeah, I think this actually makes the aspect of the sea worse, right?
No, I think it makes it better. I think
Yeah, I think it's
the
better.
increased range compensates for what they did to this spell. I think like it's gonna sound I can't remember who I heard this from, but I think maybe it was so I'm not gonna I guess I can't naming names is not good. But basically GWs realize that the problem with Ideneth is they're a effectively -1 rend army or -0 rend army. And in an age of ward saves and 3-up saves, that doesn't
Mhm.
cut it. Like Ideneth could go full in until Save to Darkness and do absolutely nothing. And this is an attempt to solve that problem. This is an attempt to remedy the fact that the War Scrolls just don't hit hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
like the king was kind of the answer to that like good Ideneth players have found, and like he still kind of is, but this is a better, easier to use, more consistent answer.
More
to that.
utility.
True, but yeah, but the king is also really fragile, right? It's like a 7
Yeah.
wound hero. Once he's in the zone, he could probably be ganged up on next turn and killed, or like he could die. To
You
like,
literally
an
have to
enemy
kill
shell.
everything.
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah. You
fight
could have
first
you
and
could
kill
monster
everything.
stomp him, like put him down to 4. Like there's a lot of things that just kill the king, and then they lost their main hammer unit. This is like okay, like if you could run a Sea Eidolon, and now it like makes eels better, it makes sharks slightly better in combat. So I like the change. It's good. Like I don't know if this will fix the faction, but it's good.
It's just melee weapons, right?
Yes.
My problem with it is that 18-inch is an improvement. It makes it a lot easier. But if you're within 18, you're also in range to be unbound. And this is the unbinding season, right? So even though Aspect of the Sea can re-roll, if it's re-rolling, it's not using primal dice. And then the unbinding just wins every time. And then this doesn't really help you get through Slaves or Stormcast or OBR or any of these armor factions, because it's just going from Rend 1 to Rend 2 isn't as big as going from Rend 1 to like Rend 4. Right, like Rend 2.
I think Rend 1 to Rend 2 is a big change. I think as an army, like for like us that primarily rely on Rend 2, I think a bunch of stuff that can run and charge or fight first with Rend 2 is very impactful.
Sure, but you can get past that. Like you can ignore Rend 2 in this game. It's really hard to ignore Rend 3, right? Like some units can be effectively +1 and ethereal against Rend 2. It's tough, but it's doable. There's cover, Finest Hour, Mystic Shield, All Out Defense, other things like Delusions from Feck, Lord Castellant. It's quite possible to regularly be at +3 save overall, and Idoneth that's what killed them for a long time. I remember when we did our how to counter Idoneth video, we were like, yeah, just save stack. They literally can't kill you on a 2-up. Like you just win the game if you're on a 2-up. So this
Deepkin's so fast though that like I think that's why they're doing so much better than Doc, is that Deepkin can just avoid the save stack unit, while
Yes.
like Doc
Totally.
is just like, I guess I go
like,
there.
Just don't engage them. If they
Yeah.
have a Mystic Shield unit in cover, just run circles around them and do your Tsunami of Terror other places. I think that's their main strat. And if you really do have to engage them, if you combine Tsunami of Terror with something like an Achillean King or like the Eidolon of Matland, the other one that does that's like 2s to wound or whatever, just do that.
Yeah, the king
have
will
-3
blow
rend.
up save stack units.
Yeah, like a king will be on -3 rend with that spell. So will the Eidolon of
King will be
Storm,
on
aspect of the Storm.
-4, right?
Yeah,
King
yeah.
has rend 3 base or after
Yeah,
he
yeah,
charges
so-
or whatever.
So yeah, they have solutions now to the problem. It's not the best solution, obviously. Like 18-inch, it's a spell. You can fail it. It can be unbound. But here's the thing. Now think about it this way, right? There's like, because Primal Dice, there's always a bit of a mind game involved. Previously, I wouldn't care what spells I'd casts. Like I literally wouldn't care. I'd be like,
Mystic
I'd
Shield.
be like, I just care.
Mystic Shield.
Yeah,
That's
I'd be
it.
like, I was like, let me have my Primal Dice for my casting. I don't care what you're casting. Like you don't have anything worth casting. But now if I see this spell, I'm like, okay, I need to keep this open because they might like punt Primal Dice into this. So I need to keep my Primal Dice open to try and unbind it.
Yeah,
And that changes the thing. You can't just like previously, if I saw an aspect of the sea, I could like ignore it. Like I could just kill everything else.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
cool.
You're just like, I don't
Yeah,
care
but
about
now I
that.
can't necessarily ignore it. Like I have to like be mindful
would-
of that range.
I would still ignore it, honestly, because if you just kill
Well, I
everything
mean,
else,
we
there's
have a Knight
nothing.
Sorry, we have a Knight Incanter. Like yeah, but like a Slaves of Darkness player cannot ignore it. I'll put it that way.
The best answer I didn't have to save stacking is Blizzard. It's the same answer every army has right now. Just Blizzard
No,
it.
do they?
I don't
No.
think they do. I think 12-inch
This is
range is
not a
way too
Blizzard
short
army.
for
Yes.
Deepkin. Like Deepkin, I think 18 inches might be too short, honestly. Like I think they want to engage you from like 24 plus inches. Like they
Yeah.
want to be.
I think 18 is
MSU
okay because
units,
they're fast.
lots
They
of
move up the
them,
board
yeah.
fast, and so they can be ready for a turn 2 Tsunami. But Blizzard generally doesn't work out well for them unless you're playing those Namardi Leviathan castles, but then you're not all over the board, and then you're losing anyway.
Those castles were really good, though. Have you guys seen them lately? They're like actually
deceptively
good.
tanky.
Yes,
They are, but like the thing is like
they struggle with tactics.
maybe the
and-
sea
and
does.
board
Maybe the
control.
sea can be
scoring
played in a
points is
castle. I don't know
tough.
what the castle will play like, but maybe the sea can be played because I think the other thing the sea does is increase the bravery of stuff to 10.
Yep.
Around it.
Yeah.
So that might be playable. Yeah.
Yeah, which means you can skip that command trait for the most part because everything shuts off Inspiring Presence these days, right? Like every army has a counter to it. So yeah, bringing that really helps mitigate the losses, which means you survive long enough to get to the Soul Render healing, which, yeah, I can see that. I don't know if the aspect is cost effective though. It's like 300 something points still. Some value that's like too much probably.
It's 12 wards, 3 ups AFI ward. So yeah.
Yeah, We'll see. We'll see.
12
I don't.
wounds. Woo.
I think everyone's just going to still play Sharks. It's just not going to be as good, and that's going to probably close the book on Ideneth this edition. Though I would love it if people played the Namarti castles. They're super
I
good.
mean, Jake played Eels this weekend, and
Yeah.
he's
Yeah,
right?
I honestly think Sharks are dead with this change.
Okay.
I think Eels are. I think anybody who wants to play Deepkin and wants to win with them will play Eels and make Eels work. I think Sharks are going to be easier to use, but I don't think it'll be like the competitive pick.
Dylan, do you know if Jake was running the shield eels or the spear eels?
Spear.
Mostly? Spear. Okay.
Okay. I'm not confident. I feel like they just don't do enough damage, and they die too quick. But we'll see. I'd like something to happen. Okay, moving on. Take a look at chat real quick here. Weight of dice from 24 eels solves a lot of problems. Yeah, that's probably true. Probably true. 3 units at -1 save means only 1 can all-out defense. It creates bad choices for the opponent. Yeah, if you're multi-fighting, especially during high tide, that could definitely be good. Unless it's like Slaanesh or Ironjaws and they can just issue triple commands anyway. Yeah, that could be interesting. Like, which unit do you want to protect? I could see that. For 200 points, and you get Krondys with that spell, but better. What do you mean? What do you mean, Dan? Is you pay 200 more and you get Krondys? I would agree for sure. Krondys seems like a lot more value than a 300 point just wizard support hero. It's like a Toralon, basically. It's the Ideneth Toralon. There we go. Except it's not a monster.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's
Good
a pretty
catch.
good
And it
comparison.
has to
actually.
cast a spell.
Yes. Yes, it does. In the anti-casting season.
Exactly. Should just be an ability.
So Caradron, almost red across the board, right? Like, that's what I wanted to see. I hate that the Ironclad got buffed. Even though the Ironclad is grossly overpriced, the reason, of course, is that it's for the 15 Thunderers. They go up 30, the Ironclad -20. That list barely got changed. What got changed is the Frigate Thunderer spam, right? Like the 2x10 with a bunch of balloons. That's what they're targeting here with this change.
And the Endenrigger spam with the 2 frigates.
Yes.
Like there was one that was learning 18 Endenriggers or something.
Yeah. Raymond, no, we haven't talked about Stormcast yet. You're just on time. We're building up to it. So I remember talking about this a few times. I don't know about if it was on stream, but I think it was at least in the Discord server. Riggers, Wardens, and Thunderers all had to go up 10 points because if only one of them went up 10 points, people would just jump to the one that didn't go up 10 points. So if Sky Wardens didn't go up 10, everybody would spam Sky Wardens.
Disclaimer: Paul doesn't actually have an in to Matt Rose
No,
or anything.
I don't.
So this was pure chance.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I did not expect them to also nerf frigates and every hero that matters. Like that's that's good. Good changes overall, I think. It's so hard to balance this army because if you cut out 60 points from most lists, suddenly this army might not have enough guns to win any games. And it has to double you in order to win, right? Like it gets to that point, which is like, that's a terrible way to design an army where it has to win a double turn to have any chance of winning a game. So
yeah, KO is the most
sounds
linear
familiar.
army in the game, so it's just like
Zinch too, right? It's like if they don't kill you with spells, what do they do?
Zinch can at least tech a little bit of like a
Summoning.
chaos spawn and summoning and
Yeah.
KO
They have a
is
lot more
literally
board
just like
control.
Kill the summoner is great.
Yeah, like KO is like I can't even contest objectives unless I
Yeah.
kill you, and I can safely drop my guys out of the boats or something.
They should they got to have something for the Arcanaut Company to do, right? Like they should count as while they're embarked, they can contest objectives. You know, like something.
Yeah, something.
Because
exactly.
there's just nothing for this army to do except this elite run and gun shooting style, right?
Mhm.
There's nothing for Arcanaut Company. They're just
I thought they would do this. I thought this time they would actually be like, okay, this army not only plays in multiple phases, but like that's what they were bragging about when the book came out, that the KO army can finally play in multiple phases. And no, it just devolved into I have to kill my opponent by shooting.
Yeah.
And then
Everybody
you
was all high on the like boat ramming and getting rend and mortal wounds.
Yeah, I mean,
or
and that
bombs.
works. Like, but that still works. Like the Enden riggers can still like come out of the assault boats and like kill you in melee. But like ultimately, the goal still is kill my opponent. It's not playing any other game that's like not. If it can't kill you, like so straight up kill you, table you, then it can't win.
yeah, it can't contest objectives. And like people always say KO has really, really good tactics, and they do. I don't want to say they don't. That's the hottest take I could ever give, is that they have bad tactics. But they're not literally auto score tactics. You can play around them, especially if you're an army that has shooting, because KO love to make you go first. And as soon as you kill a unit, that gets rid of 2 VPs from them. Right? They actually struggle with every tactic that's not in their book. Right? Like they have a hard time. So if you can deny 1 or 2, it's actually possible to just survive the double turn and still win, because their objective control is so bad. They're going to be down on primaries. So failing a tactic usually fails the game for them. So is this enough? Do you guys think is this enough or too much or just right? What do you think? These point changes. You're muted, Murgok.
I mean, they've been one of the top armies for a while now, so I think they wanted to do something.
Bullies. They'll be in the same position as
I think so.
Like they can go 4-1, they can go 3-2.
Yeah,
I think unless you're like a really skilled Jeremy Viserys-esque player, you'll struggle to get them to 5-0.
So you're thinking like a mid-table bully like OBR?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that seems pretty accurate.
That's a good position to be in, all things considered.
That's not the worst. I mean, it's just their plan is just so linear, and it's always been the same. And it's like, you know, sometimes they just get unlucky. Like I remember, I played OBR, and I didn't even take the Aura of Sterility, the anti-shooting command trait against Victor. He was playing, I think, KO. All I did was I didn't really kill anything of his. I just like took up much of the board as possible turn 1, so he couldn't drop and like move anywhere, and just like outlasted him and just won that way. And it was like, cool.
You survive the Chemist Rend turn, and you're kind of just like, okay, I'm in the clear now. Like,
yeah, because he on his like, they have like a bunch of 4-ups on like either their hits or their like wounds or something, and so he rolled low on like 1 shooting attack. Like there's 1 shooting sequence where he rolled like below average. I was like, cool. I literally have not killed anything in your army, and I'm still somehow up by 5 points. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm concerned this might be too much. But if they go from like 60% win, what are they, 56% win rate right now? Like above 55.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like 58, but yeah.
If this drops them to 50, that's fine, right?
Were they maxing
honestly,
at 2K,
Paul,
or
no,
were they taking
it's not, because the book is fine. I'll just my whole piece is, if battle tactics had been changed, this wouldn't have been necessary. I think the book was fine. Points wise, I think everything was fine. I think the battle tactics was what was pushing that book way too hard. Yeah, like I know the playstyle is very linear, and it like doesn't create bad feels for your like, it creates bad feels because it wipes you out on turn 2, but it's like ultimately it's like battle tactics.
Okay, so that's an interesting point, right? People have been saying lately, like I saw Haywo talking about this, and I agree for the most part, that battle tactics are a good external balancing tuning knob, right? Factions doing bad, bam, new battle tactics. Suddenly Big Wall's the best army in the game, right? They are very good at that. But it's also creating a problem where it's constraining internal balance, and it's also constraining external balance. Because internally, it's like, if you have a tactic like Flesh Eaters where you have to scream something to death, it's like, well, every list has 6 flayers now. No questions asked. You're bringing 6 flayers because that's such an easy tactic. You're going to get it at least every game. And then other times it's like, well, we want to nerf this army because it's doing well on tactics, but we don't want to change the tactics necessarily. So we're just going to do this to Caradron. And this might it might be too much. It might cripple them to the point where they have to win doubles to win games because they don't have that extra unit of shooting. The couple dice rolled badly, and now they're on the back foot. And yeah, so just another
Robert
reason.
Mulchine brought up a point that says, well, I have 15 Thunders on a 3-up save and 4-up rally. How will I contest objectives? And I agree with you, Robert. Like, I think that build, the 30 Thunder or 15 Thunder build, can contest objectives. I don't think people will bring 30 Thunderers because the Soulscreen Bridge is very bad for them now. If you bring 15, you're taking 1 objective. Sure, there's other objectives in the game. I can just go score. Not only that, but like, it's sort of like the Stormcast problem with Annihilators that I mentioned about a year and a half ago, where that strategy only works if the opponent armies is also about as efficient in points as you. If your opponent has access to a lot of cheap chaff that they can just absorb like an Unleash Hell with and then charge in with like a hammer unit, an army like, I don't know, Khorne, I think you're going to have a really bad time against that.
Any sustain is really bad for KO too.
Yeah, like Soul by Gravelords, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Feck is going to be really
bad.
Depends
if they can kill everything immediately or not, which for Feck doesn't matter. but they just bring it back anyways.
Yeah, and Morbeg shut off Unleash, so it's like, yeah, that's pretty big. That's rough. Thomas says, I hate battle tactics on every army, just have generic ones. I'll go one step further, just don't have battle tactics. Like, let's just get rid of battle tactics entirely. They have been an albatross on the neck of this edition the whole time. I think the best time for battle tactics was at the very start of the edition, where people didn't care about them and like scored them accidentally, and then the more people learned about them and started doing them, the worse and worse they feel. So I'm hoping we just don't have battle tactics and we have some other kind of secondary system that we can all grow to hate over time. All right, see ya, Rob. Thanks for tuning in, buddy.
Make it related to the maps, the battle maps.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Somehow for secondaries. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Lumineth. No rule changes this time around, but they got point changes. 10 points off Sentinels, 20 points off Techless, 10 points off a spell, which I bet nobody knows what it does because you've never seen anyone cast it. And then 10 points off a Wind Mage. So this big block of 30 Sentinels with a Wind Mage just got 40 points cheaper. Is that good enough? I don't think so. But it's really cool teleporting around Sentinels. Reliably from out of unbinding range. It's like having a translocate. So is the Techless Shooting Castle back? Is just generic Sentinel Castle back? I don't think
Sentinels
it's
are so bad. Somebody did an analysis of Lumineth Sentinels versus Moonclan Shooters, and the Shooters were better against any target that was not a 2-up save.
Shooters
like...
kind of heat though, like.
so yeah, that's where we are right now. So yeah,
Sentinels are they're worse than Vigilors, right? Like now that they're the same cost, we can compare them.
Yes,
Vigilors can deep strike.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd say Sentinels have
like
slightly more
Vigilors.
utility because they're wizards, or like I guess they have a wizard. But yes, they are, as far as damage is concerned. Yes.
Yeah, because Sentinels are what, 9 attacks at 4s, no rend 1.
Yes, we're 11.
We got rend, baby.
11 on 3s, rend 1. So yeah, it's Vigilors are the worst shooting unit in the Stormcast book. No, Ballistas. Ballistas are probably the worst, right? Skybolt Judicators? No, Skybolt. Aside from points, Vigilors are the worst. Let's say that.
I think Vigilors are better than Skybolt Judicators.
They're more useful.
Sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Skybolt Judies are a little rough right now.
And they're 75% of the points. Like,
yeah. So I don't think this is enough. Lumineth, they're doing all kinds of weird stuff these days. They're doing like 30 Warden blocks with Ethereal, counting as 2 models each on objectives, and like just not scoring tactics and just outscoring primaries because you can't kill them fast enough to score.
Supported by Stone Mountains for the -1, so everything's like -2 to hit now, stuff like that.
That's a playstyle. That's like a death playstyle in Order, which is cool. I figured Ideneth would do that before Lumineth do, but it kind of fits with what Lumineth. They're like the defensive elves, so that's kind of
Lumineth
cool.
is a meme. They're literally just doing meme list, like like you said, like wardens on objectives, and then they send out what's that teleporting wizard they have? The one that like pre-game teleports.
The one with like
Lore
the
Seeker.
wrench. Yeah.
Lore Seeker,
Lore
yes,
Seeker.
yeah, Lore Seeker. Yeah, he can still do Blizzard, and they ruled it so you can go Deep Thinkers and then Primal Dice.
Yep.
Into a Blizzard. So
the problem with that is you want Acolytes because you want a Primal Dice, and that means you're not 1-drop, which means you don't get to choose Prio, which means you never actually do that because it means that they're just going to take first from you.
Oh, sure, but that works for you then, because you can like the primary reason people take double 2-drops or 1-drop is so they can make you go first. If you can be like, oh yeah, buddy, sure, let's do this, then they're not gonna want to do that.
Yes, but when you're down a Lore Seeker in that army, it's not good. It's really bad. You need 5 wizards and they all need Blizzard. That's what Lumineth does right now. It's not a good place to be. Hopefully, they got the new models coming soon, right? The River guys, those might push things in a new direction. That could be cool. Give them an actual melee hammer in that army. That would be very cool.
Is the Lore Seeker unique?
No, you can bring 5.
Yeah,
Oh,
but really,
so
it's
then...
inefficient to do it, because if you want something that's like a castle Blizzarder, you want like that one, the really cheap one with the banner, the Caligrave or whatever it's called. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Seraphon. So lots of point changes. Croak went up 30, Astrolith went up 20. The whole Croak caster package went up by a lot, right? Which sucks that they keep nerfing everything except Croak in order to nerf Croak. But I kind of get why they're doing it, because Croak still needs to be playable in Coalesced. And he doesn't bring like a Slan and a Starseer. Like, he doesn't bring all this stuff with him when he comes into Coalesced. So if they just made Croak 550 points or whatever, he would suddenly become unplayable in Coalesced, right? So I get that, but now 310 points for a Slan in Coalesced really sounds bad. That's a terrible value proposition.
Yeah, that's a lot of points for Coalesced, but yeah, Coalesced is in such a weird spot, right? Because like they're so good into 2 damage armies. Like maybe not so good, maybe that's an exaggeration, but they have such a strong ability into 2 damage armies, and then like into 1 damage armies and stuff, they just die so fast.
Mortal
So it's
Wounds,
like, I don't know,
especially.
what do you do with it? Yeah, Mortal Wounds are really bad for them. They kind of play like pinning army, like with Vengeful Defender stuff, but they can't really do it against. Like,
I mean,
half
that's what
the
they're
field.
doing. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
No,
so
Dylan's
it's
totally
like,
right. The thing they're doing is 6 Croxagores or 6 Agrodons and just like push
Mhm.
these bunch of wounds on -1 damage on you.
Oh, it's gonna be Agrodons. The Croxagores are dead forever. Like, I'm sorry to say it. Real quick,
Wait,
in the
really?
chat. Yeah. One sec. Stuart in the chat says Sentinels were designed to pick off heroes from across the board. Now that they can't do that, they're not worth the space. 100%. That's exactly the problem right now. Lumineth played a very tactical, surgical game, and now Sentinels just don't do that anymore. So all they are is bad damage. Like long strikes, but at least long strikes just do good damage and they're pretty accurate, and like they just take chunks out of things and they can thunderbolt volley. Sentinels don't have any of that. They are, and if they don't get their spell off, they do approximately 0 damage. Like it's just not good for 150 points. So
They do like 1 damage, I think, 1.6
It's-
or something.
it's
not
bad.
much.
Yeah.
They're lucky to get Immortal. Well, on average, they'll get at least one, but yeah, it's not great. So, okay, yeah. So what were we talking about?
Croxagore, why do you think you'll not see them?
The only thing propping up Croxagores was the fact that Vengeful Defender could pick the same unit 3 times. So you would zip up Croxagores 20 inches and then charge. And you can't do that anymore. They only move 5 inches per turn. So Vengeful Defender 10 inches, then they run 6 inches and charge. That's a lot worse. That's a 28-inch threat range max, which right now the core number is 30, right? The key number, 16 and then 12, 28 threat range, right? You can easily deploy out of 30. 30 is the key value right now. If you're not over 30, you're slow. Like, that's unfortunately the criteria that we're dealing with in this game right now. Things don't feel fast enough unless you're passing that 30 threshold, because there's a lot of stuff at 30 that matters. It's not to say they can't charge you, but like, because you can't just zip Croxagores around the map anymore, why wouldn't you just use Agrodons instead? There's like no argument left for using Croxagores. Even then, they weren't even that good. Even in the scenario where you could use them 3 times in a row, it's just Agrodons now. 190 points. It's like 20 points more now.
I don't think the extra wound count and the bites have any value to them.
I think it has more value to Saurus Warriors, because I think that's the big problem, really. I think Agrodons are a lot better at like the pinning situation that you're talking about, where they just go forward, pin you in, and just do that. Like, I think Agrodons are way better at that. And I think as far as playing more a like measured melee army, I think Saurus Warriors are better. I don't think Crocs do either category like good enough. So I don't really
That's
know
fair.
what Crocs are
Yeah.
doing.
They're not defined in any role in the book. They are competing with 2 other units that are better in different ways. And I've tried Croxagores. I have tried Gator maxing with 18 of them. I have tried doing tricks with them in Starborn, where you teleport them up and then speed of Huanchi them with Storm Coven to give 6 of them strike first and like -1 hit and unforging and all this stuff. And it's never good enough. And always you could just use Agrodons instead, except for speed of Huanchi.
Do you think it's partly the hitting on 4s?
Yes, that's actually a huge part of it. If they were on 3s to hit, or just got +1/+1 if they charged or something, a big part of it is the accuracy. Anything that's on 4s right now really feels bad, especially with Command Core in the game now denying your +1 hit. Oh god,
Yeah, I thought they would have a niche with because they're one of the few units in the army that are like -2 Rend 2 damage or -2 Rend 3 damage. But yeah, hitting on 4s is so awful. My God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the war
For an
spawn,
elite unit like that.
the
like,
war spawn in
they
particular,
bred for war.
the war spawn don't do enough damage, and the regular Croxagors don't have enough rend. Like they're not accurate
Yes.
enough. Like 4-up hit and rend one or the other. You can't be both, right? Like a 4-up hit
What
rend
is
one
the
sucks.
what does the Croxagor war spawn get as a buff if like a skink dies near it?
If
or
a
something?
skink dies near them, they get up to the same attacks that regular Croxagors get, the same max damage. Except
Oh.
regular Croxagors also have exploding hit 6. So like they actually end up doing way more. They turn into this cheap like screen clearer that has some additional utility with the bites, right?
Yeah, I think they really screwed that unit over personally. But
Yeah, totally. It feels like it's somebody who designed the Stormcast unit designed Croxagors. Like completely muddled, no clear vision. Like just what does the model do? I don't know. Look at it.
Classic.
Okay, so there's other Seraphon stuff. Lord of Celestial Resonance now only works for the first cast, Unbind, and Dispel, which cuts down their celestial cosmic power generation enough that you can't cleanse the realms every single turn. So what people are going to do is, first of all, they're going to stop playing the Croak build, because that Croak build needed to kill you with Cleanse the Realms. Like, Croak himself wasn't enough to reliably kill the whole enemy army. What it would do, though, is it would Cleanse the Realms 2 turns in a row, and everything would take 2d6 mortals, which got through Spell Ignore, so that's how they were winning against OBR and Khorne. But now that you're not getting that crucial Cleanse the Realms every single turn, you just can't do it. So that build is dead. I think what people are going to pivot into is probably increasing the range of endless spells on the Slan and like whipping pendulums at you from 30 inches away. That's going to be silly. I love that. Because I don't think anything else is good enough right now for Seraphon. Like, the Croak build was it. I think the pivot is going to be into Coalesced, unironically. Cities is just doing multi-damage melee attacks now and multi-damage shooting with the steam guns from cannons. OBR is still doing multi-damage stuff. Stormcast is doing multi-damage stuff. You can like bring a Knight Incanter to cancel Blizzard and then just grind people out with Aggrodons. I think that might be the play now.
I mean, so the playstyle doesn't really change then, because I think Dean Bills or Duncan Bills, one of the Bills brothers, was running 12 Aggrodons and just support around it.
Yep.
I think that's what will be the list.
Yeah, with a little pack of 6 Rippers. Maybe one thing Starborn could do is pivot into summoning Rippers over and over and over, because if you start the table with 2 or 3 Ripper units, you can give out 3 Blot Toads, and then the summoned see somebody in the back there, John. The summoned units of Rippers can benefit from the Blot Toads. They don't spawn their own Blot Toad, but they can benefit from that. So you just keep throwing Rippers at something until it dies. So that's a legitimate play. Probably too slow, though, especially with the Lord of Celestial Resonance nerf. I don't think you generate enough power quickly enough. So
the Celestial Resonance nerf like really drops you by like 3 points a turn or so.
Yeah, and you needed it to happen these days.
You don't
with
think
Unbinding.
they'll just pivot into like having more casts? Like
I don't think they can afford another Starseer, especially with these point nerfs as they are. Like, they gained 100 points already. Can they find 160 points in their list? Like, I think then they just get overrun. They're already.
I was gonna say,
because
like, talking to the Starborn players that I've talked to, like, a lot of them were like, well, this is like minus a unit of skinks, and then we try and switch to some kind of casting. And like, I'm not sure if like Starborn might be just like, the standard Croak build might be dead. But I also wouldn't be surprised like if those changes did like keep it afloat.
I think we'll see a leaner Croak build that cuts the Star Master and just has Croak. I think we might see that, because Croak still does a ton of damage on his own. And for 440, you get a +2 cast, Unbind, Dispel everywhere on the table with 4 cast, stopping magical dominance. Like, the Slan feels really bad for his point cost, but Lord Croak himself is still probably fine. So I think probably what those builds try to do is cut the Star Master, go into like maybe like an Acolyte General with Shaman, like a Skink Starseer. I don't know. It's hard to really.
If they're not gonna keep chaining the cosmic power points because of that change to the command trait, I think that build is dead, because the entire point was like the chains you could create
to generate it.
Yeah,
Agreed.
so like the self-propagating engine is dead, so they have to now hard pivot. I think you're right, Paul. I think they will cut the Slan. They might just go lean with like Croak does a bunch of more wounds, and now we can invest these other points in like actual units to like play the board with.
Yeah, instead of a Slan, you could bring 6 Rippers and a Chief.
Yeah.
Sorry, just reading through the chat right now. Croxagores did not change to a 5-up save. The app is wrong. Yes, they are still a 4-up save. They are 5 wounds, so some wires got crossed there. Do you think they're going to swap to a Meteor Starborn build? Maybe. I thought about a build where you generate enough cosmic power to use the 5-up board on the Astrolith Bearer, drop in 20, 30 Source Warriors, and just try to pin the enemy army with a 5-up board. And then you Azure Light to heal D3 from that unit every single turn. The problem is Blizzard exists, and Blizzard just kills the Source Warriors so quickly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think
Coalesce just does it better than Meaty Starborn.
Yeah, the Coalesce just seems like the way to go, and that's a sad state of affairs when Coalesce is the better of the two options.
I mean, it'll always be a mid-table bully. I think Starborn will always bully people, and then they'll fight Corn or something, and it'll be like
Corn is just going to eat Starborn now for sure.
Yeah.
No chance.
OBR too. I think OBR changed. Well, we'll talk about OBR, but yeah.
All right, let's move on to the main attraction. Obviously, Stormcast Eternals, green across the board. We did it. Woo! Another battle scroll with just buffs. Vanquishers also have a 2-inch range. Finally, you can use a squad of 10 and get access to those amazing bonuses.
Like a 5-up rally.
5-up rally.
Woo!
Yeah, boy.
And then obviously they put the previous errata to Ionis Karazite Krondys. In case you haven't been paying attention to Stormcast, these abilities used to just not work technically, but people played them that they reduced all attacks around them by -1. Now you have to pick one unit at the start of the combat phase, which makes it worse for Karazai, but better for Ionis and Krondys. And then combined with that, we got some point changes. Drakesworn down 20, Karazai down 20, Krondys down 20, Lord Relictor down 10, Vandus Hammerhand down 10.
That's just them fucking with us.
What are you talking about?
Hammerhand minus 10.
On Jackal?
We know one person who's going to be excited about that, right? Just one.
God.
No, this is them screwing with us.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Character.
I promise you. They heard how useless Vandus' scroll was, and they're like, "Yeah, drop 10. That'll really excite me."
And
Yo,
then
the Questor drop is
-20. Yeah. Questers is
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Questers and Relictor are the standouts here.
Yeah.
The Karazai change is good. David's not here to talk about it, but he is trying to still 5-0 with Karazai. So he's trying to make that work before the end of the edition.
He's gonna do it.
I think so.
These absolute cowards. Still no Stormdrake Guard change. Come on, man. They could have just done a pity pedal 10-point drop on them. Just to be like, hey guys, we know it's not that efficient anymore. But like, no, come on, man.
Yeah.
What is this?
Well, it's frustrating too, because like the Templar is like getting so close. But you want to make them general, you want to like have
Give
that
him an artifact.
the negative wound. Yeah, and then it's like and then you want to use the dragons as battle line, but it's just still too much. It's just not there yet.
Just make Karazai 500 too, just 500 even. What is this
Just make 'em 500
crap?
yeah.
Just what is this?
All right.
Like, what are they doing? Is this just guys, they're gonna get their new book in 4 months. Just chill out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's probably
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But the Templar is like definitely looking interesting, but he's really hard to get into lists. I can't do it. I keep trying. Can't do it.
But you have to give up Spellcasting Savant now, which is really hard.
Exactly.
I like the Krondys change. I like the Lord Relictor change, and I like the Questor change. Not enough to do like I think all roads just lead back to Cometfall with Stormcast right now. I think that's our best list just for the meta and for the season. That's the way things are right now. I think it's our best one. But it's gonna be cool to put Krondys on the table and still have all the good stuff that I want to bring, like the 6 Tempesters, the Dracolines, the Long Strikes. Like I just want to bring that list and have fun with it. So that's good.
So do you guys think Krondys just can go in list now? Like, and you don't have to like do like mega build arounds? Because I feel like the problem with Krondys before was that you always had to like do big build around list. Like, do you guys think he's cheap enough now to fit him in some random good stuff lists?
No,
I don't think so.
He's only 2 casts, and this is the Unbinding season. So even though he has +3, it's the easiest possible time to unbind his spell. So like his casting is less reliable than before, and you have to still build a list around him to take advantage of that -1 save effect. But you don't have enough points to bring like Praetors and a Castellan dedicated to him. And even if you could, he's not really worth buffing defensively like Karazai is. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a weird spot because right now we're pivoting into a lot of shooting. Like we are like just taking like a unit of Raptors, 4 Tempesters. I think 4 Tempesters is how most Stormcast lists are starting these days because of how essential they are to tactics with Draconid
Yeah.
Destruction or whatever. Um, so I think he has a play there based on the number of shooting units we're taking. But yes, his casting isn't as good given that it's a Primal Magic season, and ultimately because like it's like we want to use him as a support dragon, but he is a big dragon that can actually hit stuff too. But if we want him to hit stuff, then we want to take support units to like buff him up with the Castellan or
Protect him.
Praetors or what have you. But so
Gardas.
it's this push pull in different directions that's causing him to like not have like a definitive list.
And that's in a normal season. This season,
Yeah,
when he goes in, he watches like
he just
tiny,
dies to Blizzard, right?
he watches
dies to Blizzard.
a 70-point Goblin Shaman just conjure a massive blizzard in front of him, and he can't stop it. He just can't do anything.
Spirit bombs them.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Yep.
No spell ignore. No, it's just.
Oh my god,
crazy.
yeah, +3. If they have +3 to unbind, that he could actually be playable as a hammer.
Yes.
Krondus
A
would
weaker
be
hammer.
good.
That would
with
make it-
+3 unbind.
All the other
Yeah,
armies
Dan
have that.
Sasala said that. I agree with you, man.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what?
'Cause
Okay.
think about it. What other heroes only have the plus on their cast and not their unbind as well?
There used to be
Old
more.
Battle Mage. Like,
Do you know what I
can't
mean? Though
think
it's
of any
not
other-
that common.
yeah.
It's more common that it's on both.
It was more
That would
common
make
in
a huge
second. It
difference.
was a lot more common. Yeah, there was actually a bunch of stuff that was only plus to cast. It might be the last one actually. I can't think of
I was
any
gonna
other.
say it's just old book stuff, right? Like
Just
I'm
old
sure
book
when we
stuff.
get the new book, he'll get it to both, assuming
Don't
he
jinx
stays
it.
relatively
Don't
sane.
jinx it. Don't jinx it.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice.
You're
to
right, you're right.
Yeah.
You can tell
It'd
he's
be
new
nice if he had
here.
Don't
It's got hope.
jinx
be
it.
nice
Don't talk
If
about
he had a
stuff like that.
damage
Like-
spell on his war scroll, I think that would be nice too.
Oh, like a direct damage spell. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be cool.
Yeah,
Also,
it does
like,
kind
a
of feel
ward,
like
man,
man, just
against-
cast Mystic Shield and
Give him a spell ignore, like the little babies have it. Why can't he have it? Spell ignore, a ward, something.
The
like-
ward. The ward makes sense.
They printed
A ward,
It's like
yes.
the Alariel problem, right? Alariel's like kind of good, but that's because she comes back, and like that's sort of like a ward for her because it's like, oh, you killed her, she's gonna come back. It's like a
Mhm.
pseudo ward. These guys need a ward because if I'm taking Praetors with them, it's not a 500-point unit; it's a 630-point unit.
And
Although
no battle
Praetors
line.
are really good with them if you can position right. It's kind of
Oh, well, that's the thing. You can't position. How do you like associate a 5-inch move with a 14-inch move? You can't. So
Yeah, it's a lot of really weird measuring, but
Yeah.
it kind of works.
Well, 120 Relictor now, so then now we're moving them that way.
Oh, okay. Now we're talking about it. So it's a 750-point unit then. So,
Just-
okay, great.
Just
Take
roll a 2
Ionis
plus.
with it too to get the auto.
Oh
transfer
yeah,
rate.
there we go.
Oh
there
my
we go.
God.
1130 points to make or sorry, 1030 points to make Krondus
For one play.
Yep.
durable. Eat one blizzard. Not that's it.
Ish.
Yeah, not even two.
Okay, so Andrasta overcosted still. Bastion overcosted still. Both the Toralons are
Stormdrake
still Stormdrake Guard, both the Toralons. Almost like every unique hero. Is there any good unique hero?
Night Judicator.
Gardas.
Gardas
I
is
think
good.
Gardas is.
He's
Gardas is
overpriced.
fine.
I
I
think
don't-
the problem with Gardas is just like, what do you do for tactics? Like I'm trying to build a Gardas list,
Mhm.
right? And it really feels like you play the Gardas castle for like 1-2 turns, and then you're like, I guess I just have to leave. Like I have to blow up my castle and scatter.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
difficult.
They
in
really
this
prioritize
THB.
movement this season.
When you
Yeah,
have to
it's
break
tough in
like
this one. The last season it was easier.
Liberators are S tier. Every list wants 1 or 2 units of Liberators. No list wants 3 units of Liberators. Right? Like
Yeah.
oh, it's so awful to build a list with Gardas and have to look at 300 points of not hammers. It's so
God,
awful.
I wish we had a fast unconditional battle line. Like just like something with like at least an 8-inch move unconditional battle line would be so nice.
Prosecutors?
Those don't
If they
exist.
I live for the day that prosecutors are good, but
Oh,
that day
I
is
would
not
love
today.
that.
Maybe if they
No.
get Thunderstriked, right?
There's
Well,
so many
something.
ways you can
Give
buff
them
prosecutors that I would love, but none of them
I
have
used to love
happened
running
yet.
them. I used to run them in my Annihilators list. They were like the Unleash Hell.
The
Observer.
Unleash Hell
If
Eaters,
not
yeah.
that, I would just like jump across your line, then snipe like a 5-wound hero because I ran them with double hammers.
Yeah, they.
fun.
I don't think they're like completely unplayable, right? But I think they don't do what I want them to do.
I think we would see a lot more of them if they were battle line always.
Yeah,
Then people would use them.
Yeah, that would be an
Because they
interesting
have
swap.
uses for sure. They have uses.
if they were always battle line, I would run them in a lot.
I would definitely
of
bring
lists.
one. Yeah, at least a unit. I would bring one.
You know, have you guys considered that they can use Thunderbolt Volley?
I've considered it and then considered that it was bad.
I mean, so can the Stormstrike Chariot, Paul. Why don't you do that?
No, it can't. It doesn't have Angelos.
I was gonna say I don't think it can.
It actually is missing the keyword.
Wait, hold on a second. They have the Angelos Conclave symbol.
Yes,
Do they really not have the keyword?
Yes.
Oh my god, dude. Oh.
Remember how the
It's only if you
Lord
take the bow.
the Lord Aquilor
only if you
didn't
take
have
the bow.
Vanguard? Long strikes still don't have Vanguard. Vanguard Raptors don't have the Vanguard keyword. It's brilliant.
It's a myth.
The Vanguard Chamber doesn't exist. It's a, it's a fever
Yeah.
dream.
It's so silly. Let Praetors take the disc. Oh yeah, surfing Praetors. You
That'd
get
be
like
cool.
3
That would
little
be
arcane
so
Deus for
fun.
all of them.
But it would be so wonky to actually like play stacking them on the disc. Oh, I'd love it though.
Yeah, Raymond. Questers are Thunderstrike. Dropping them in 7 inches feels really good. Now that they're only 10 points more than Grandhammers, usually when I run a 7-inch Scions list or like an Nylon Grande type list, I'm bringing 2 drops. But now with Questers so cheap, I'm going to bring like 2 Grandhammers and a Quester unit in those lists.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about like
It's a
what
nice
if you
discount.
just like make an Annihilator list but leave the Annihilators at home and just bring like 3 units of Soulsworn. Like, is that just crazy or is that?
Yes.
It's not crazy. It is not. It is no, okay. It is crazy, but not for the reasons you think. It's crazy because while they're good and their melee damage is respectable, they're not battle line. That list is so tight on points. You need
yeah.
a lot of battle line to make it viable.
That's true. That's fair.
And the Ren 1 sometimes can't get through, even though it's a lot of attacks. But
Yeah.
the teleport out of combat really helps with this the
Very
7-inch
nice.
dropping them like annihilators, because you can really get in there, do some damage. You're gonna survive probably if you're in Astral Templars or something, and you're not gonna get roared, and you can do an all-out defense maybe, whatever. You're probably gonna survive, and then you can jump away. They're cool. They're
You
cool.
can
I
jump
like this
away
drop.
into range of Andrasta and then heal back a model immediately.
Well,
Look at that sick
Wow.
combo.
You
yeah.
know,
yeah.
stay tuned for my Adepticon list because
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
lots of-
final statements
yeah.
on Stormcast in this edition. It's been a wild ride, huh? It's I remember the
we
day
had
we
a
woke
lot
up.
of really crazy like unit swings, right? Like, I mean,
Well-
think of how many different units have been like our current Tempesters, right? Where we just start a list
Yes,
there.
exactly. Because of point drops. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you guys okay? Since everyone's in the Discord, there's a person I don't know their real name. Okay, they're called MB5C.
Yeah.
On Twitter, they're called Tiltcast Eternal. Anyway, they're like a UK player, I'm pretty sure, and they're pretty good. They've played Stormcast for a while. I think they did an analysis of something like, I think they've had an average of 30 points drops across like different units. Like we've had like everything except I think 4 scrolls, which is the Night Draconis, Bastion, Stormdrake Guard, and like something else has not gone down. Everything else has gone down. And Judicators, yeah. I think Judicator has not gone down. But it's like an average of 30 points dropped in like across like the Stormcast army over these 2 years.
Now, does that include units that went up and then now went down again, like Gardas and the Lord
Sure,
Relictor and Chariots?
Yeah.
So
Chariots
silly.
started at 170, didn't they?
165.
They started at 165. They were
Then they
like
went up.
exactly.
Then they went down and then they went
They
down.
went. Yeah. They went up because I
I
was
will
running 2
say-
of them, and then I didn't stop playing them when they went down. Annihilators. I stopped playing Annihilators, and then they went down. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I will say as a new player, like it's been interesting because I've really tried to make an effort of like if points go down on something, like I build that and I add it to my army and I try playing with it. So I've really tried to like get a big range of playing different things and seeing what's what. Now I have, I mean, probably I don't even know, like 10,000 points or something crazy.
You'll get there
but
one day.
I think it's
10,000
kinda
is
fun.
lightweight.
I think it's kind of cool. Hopefully next season or next year won't be. I won't have to buy and paint too much stuff. But I guess they might make a bunch of new stuff.
I was gonna say, I
Not
think we're
from the
getting a bunch
rumors.
of new stuff.
Not from the rumors I'm hearing. It's like,
Uh.
oh, you know that collection you have? Yeah. What if you wanted to paint it again? It's,
Do it
it's like
again.
that. Like, yeah.
That's why I only own 1 unit of Liberators right now. It's a it's been
Yeah,
an
I
interesting
would-
list building
That
challenge.
is not a unit I would want to buy right now. If you're
Yeah.
if you're in the market, guys, like proxy something, proxy sequitors. I know every tournament I know allows it, but like don't buy
Yeah.
liberators. They're gonna get replaced.
You'll be able
like
to
that's
use
a
the
that's
old
a
list in the
certainty.
future. You'll be able
Yeah,
to
yeah, of
use
course.
it.
Yeah, I'm
That'll
probably still
matter.
gonna like. I'm not gonna buy more unless they like.
No.
I don't know. Do
Yeah, you
something
will.
like
They're in the
wild.
starter.
I
You'll
was gonna say,
buy
we'll
it.
all buy the starter
I mean,
box.
okay, like what I mean is like I'm not gonna go out of my way to like buy like a box of them. I'll just
Yeah,
like run the
yeah.
old ones.
But what if
Starter
there's a
box is
special
just going to
weapon
be
option?
3 Vexlers and Liberators.
Okay, whoa, what do you mean special weapon option? I have Barrack the Indomitable right here. He's the store anniversary.
Oh
one.
hell
This-
yeah, Silas Beastbane, baby.
Yeah, yeah. He's the one with the orc head at his feet. I'm just gonna run him as a
Yeah.
special weapon option.
But he's
Oh,
not Thunderstriked, so
Who cares? He's a veteran. He's
Just
Thunderstrike
put,
in my eyes.
a Draconis shield on his chest and he's fine.
Yeah. I'll just like clip the Gringme gem and like give him a gem. Boom.
Yeah.
I think the safe bets right now are everything that's in a red box on the shelves. Those units have been reboxed. I can't imagine they would rebox units and then cut them, right? Like or just redo them or whatever. But I've been thinking about that for a while, and lately I've been going to stores and I'm noticing some units that aren't in that first release wave are also not reboxed. Like the Toralon is not reboxed. Evocators on foot are not reboxed. Makes me worry about more than just that first chamber. Yeah.
Yes, MB5C, the person I just mentioned, also did an analysis of all the reboxed and the units that did not get any like major points changes. And I think there's like a very comprehensive list of units that are like about to get snapped out of existence.
Yeah, Toralon's gone, Paul, unfortunately. It's going to get the boot. Your
My
heart's breaking.
stream's
Okay,
over.
okay,
I'm done with this.
okay, will they though? Okay, I don't think they will because
No, I'm just
like
joking.
while
Who knows?
no, like the tall run could, but Aventus, I don't think so. Like Aventus is like a major role player in
An
the cities.
important character. It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah. He's the
Still
Magister of
can't-
Hammerhall.
You can't take
Yep.
him in cities right now, or he like doesn't work in cities right now, right? Like
No, he
his
does, he
keywords
does.
are all screwed up.
His keywords
Well,
are
no,
wrong.
he does.
Things is screwed up.
His keywords are wrong, but like the TOs will like cool. If you take him in Hammerhall Aksha, you're getting another point or whatever, another command point.
Totally.
So it's
Has
so
he-
it's not like
Has he even made it to Dawnbringers yet? I haven't heard any mention of him in years.
no.
in the story.
He's a Stormkeep guy. He's not a Crusade guy. He stays where he is. He doesn't.
just
Yeah, but-
chilling.
he
I wanted to swear. Gavriel Sherhart got a mention in the Dawnbringer stories, but Aventus hasn't. Like,
Oh my god.
you know, like it's not looking good. I'm pretty sure he's just gonna get squatted. Like who's the Magister? I don't know. I didn't vote for anyone. That was whatever.
strange
Yeah.
dudes in towers writing tolerons are no basis for a system.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a wild ride. Well, we'll talk more about next edition soon-ish, I guess. All right, moving on. Sylvaneth, their heroes got cheaper, so Alariel basically the same price. So does this make any difference in list building if she's 20 points cheaper? No, right? Like maybe you squeeze endless spells, you take a better one. I don't know.
No, I see player in Sylvanet lists that want to run lean. They just run swords, they run beetles, and they run a dry effort to gun down screens.
Okay,
basically.
so this lets them upgrade one sword to sides.
Yeah, or like a bows to Drysha.
Okay.
It's cool. It's nothing major, but
Yeah.
it's like a cool. Sylvanet was already sort of doing well. Like this is their season. They're not bad this season at all. With Beltanos has completely changed how the
Yeah.
army works.
Yeah.
When everything goes the way they want it to, Sylvaneth feel like an A-tier army. But then sometimes you just don't get that 2-up, or you get unbound, or you miscast, or just so many things can go wrong between where Sylvaneth start the game and what they want to do that turn. Every single turn for 5 turns, right? At some point, something's going to go
Priority
wrong. Yes. At some point, something just goes wrong, and then everything gets derailed, and they end up at like 45% win rate, you know, because of that. And that's rough. But I don't think you fix that with points, right? Because if you make the army too cheap, they just bring more stuff, and that doesn't fix the problem. It just gives them more stuff.
Yeah.
So probably needs a rewrite. but not like thematically. Like I think they feel like Wood Elves should play, right? So I think that's on point. Just
Thing is, I don't even know if they need a rewrite because the Beltanos got introduced, and it's like the great insurance plan for when that Spice Swarm Hive doesn't go off.
Yes.
But I think
don't know,
it does
just take off the
pigeonhole them.
2-up on everything.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
take
yeah.
off the
But-
2-up
but
on
ma-
Spite Swarm, take off the 2-up of the Dryad summoning or whatever.
and
from
translocate shouldn't have to roll a
Vines.
2-up. Just make it happen.
Yeah.
Ionis.
But I think it does pigeonhole them into having to take Beltanos every time. They have to take it. Like every list I saw, like except for like one or two, like was running Beltanos.
Yeah, I
He's-
played against
he's literally
both
made-
those lists.
But we only used to see the Heartwood lists, the ones that are like +1 to hit for 3 or whatever.
Mhm.
And now we're seeing Oakenbrow lists. Like trees are playable because of Beltanos. Like it's that crazy.
Mhm.
That's the kind of rewrite I'm talking about, though. Is like get rid of the randomness in what they're doing, right? Like get rid of the 2-ups. Just run in charge. Everything run in charge. Fine, done,
Mhm.
easy.
Yeah, like you already have to get the spell off. Like just let it happen.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. DC in the chat's mentioning Sylvaneth reroll charge triumph is guaranteed now. Yeah, okay, I can see that. If you're playing tree spam lists and you have a Warsong Revenant in there, 30 points towards a triumph will get you that triumph. Cool. Overall, I don't see this making a big change in what Sylvaneth are doing or how they're doing it or how well they're doing it. So yeah, moving on. Beasts of Chaos. Gores have 2-inch range and Zangors have 2-inch range, and Vestigores are 20 points cheaper. Does any of this matter if they're getting squatted in 4 months?
Okay, first one. Okay, I want to make a disclaimer. We don't have any inside information. What we do have is the Grand Alliance forum. There's a guy called White Fang. They talk a lot of like things that come to be true eventually. They mentioned BOC's future is not looking too bright for 4th edition. That aside, because I'm not going to lean into speculation here, I think it's nice because it gives them an alternate hammer that isn't just Bulgors. I think that army was way too in on like I'll use board control,
Yeah,
Gores, but
9.
the main damage thing is 6 Bulgors.
Is this
So
are Vestigores playable now though? They're not comparable to Bulgors. They're so much better.
I think Gores are playable. Gores are playable.
but
They have a
don't-
fight last, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but the fight
Yeah,
last
that's-
doesn't have anything to do with their range. Like you don't bring Gores for their damage. You bring them for that fight last and just having cheap. They're battle line,
I
right?
mean-
They're a cheaper battle line.
Gores are cheaper and not to mention more numerous. Like you're talking about each of them will has 2-inch range, so they'll have let's say a unit of 10 Gores is 110 points. So let's say you bring a unit of 30, that's 60 attacks, it's 3s and 3s. The Beast's terrain piece gives them -1 rend, and -2 are later on. So
I guess it adds up, but my experience.
I don't think this is how Beast was wanting to play the game though. Like you have kind of like 2 main like paths, like in my head at least for Beast, and it's either Bulgors where they just play like Minotaurs and hope to blow you up, and like board control where they never fight you. And this I don't think affects either one of those archetypes, and I don't think it opens up a new archetype. So I don't think these changes actually mean anything, to be real.
I think Eli plays that board control one. I think the
Mhm.
one you're
Yeah,
talking
he does.
about. Yeah, I don't
With,
think
like,
his list doesn't care.
Yeah, I literally don't think it even runs any of these units. Like his list doesn't care. The Bulgor stuff doesn't care. Like I don't know, the way that Beast is currently playing the game doesn't care about these changes, and these changes are so small that it's.
I'm gonna go a little Pepe
Zinch
Sylvia
might care,
here and say that these are changes for the sake of changes, and that to me signals that they're getting rid of this army.
Maybe. I hope not. I like Beast. I hope they stick around.
I guess no changes at all would have been a stronger indicator. So maybe I'm just trying to, read the chicken bones here. All right.
Do you think Zinch cares about the Zango case?
Yes, they
Yeah.
certainly do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But first, let's talk about Khorne. So Khorne almost looks better now than they used to. Because they don't have to bring wizards anymore, which means they've gained 160 points, so they can bring another priest, and then they just bring the nullstone, and they still get the free tactic, but they don't get a turn 1 tactic. So this has been a weakness of Khorne this whole season, is that if somebody can snipe out the 2 units that they've placed on their flanks to very obviously score, surround, and destroy, Khorne just doesn't do a turn 1 tactic. Does it matter enough? I don't think so. It matters in the Stormcast versus Khorne matchup, which was already a bad matchup for them, I think. But against most armies, that just won't matter. So I think Khorne just looks better now. They lost 20 points in most lists, which you'll probably find it somewhere.
I think Claws going up by 20 is very relevant because that was their way to try and get a turn 1 tactic, was with Claws. And so I think there are a lot of lists that'll just be like, well, screw it. I'm not even going to worry about it now. I'm just going to not take Claws, go down a tactic turn 1, and just hope to win from there, which is a significant change.
Well, I think they'll just pivot into Furies instead, because Furies score the tactic all the same.
Yes. Yep.
That's true.
But not being able to murderless is the big change. It's the big nerf, because Claws of Karnak would pregame move or run, and then murderless to tie something up, and they can't murderless the unit of Furies, which is pretty relevant. I think the spell change is actually very clever. This is something I did not expect from GW, because it's the perfect change they needed.
I agree.
It's to where you could still do technically magical dominance, but if you're a pro player, you can't afford the inconsistency of failing that.
Totally.
On the other hand, if you're a fluffier player who likes taking Bellicor or Archaon into their lists, you don't care.
Right, like that's not the reason you were taking them.
That's not the reason you were taking them. So yeah.
It tells an awesome story, right? Like Bellicor was scheming, but Khorne was like, no, stop it. Sit down.
I love it.
It's very thematic. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be rolled by another hero in your army. It just gets rolled.
It just says whenever a friendly unit casts a spell. Okay. So it's like it doesn't matter if you have anyone who casts a spell. Khorne sometimes says, "No, I'm not going to let you do that."
Yeah.
Which I mean, why is Bellicor subverting Khorne? Why is Bellicor so powerful you can convert an elemental god? That's a question for another time. This should be 100% on like a 1+. He says no. Right? Make you roll the dice just to shame you for even attempting it. So how many units of Claws of Karnak are people bringing? Usually just 1, right? Sometimes 2, but usually just the 1.
2.
Yeah. So this is 20 points. Were Khorne lists at 2k on the dot? Did they just shave an endless spell and keep everything else the same?
Yeah. Yes, but it's not good. So okay, the answer is complicated. Yes, they were 200 on the dot, but this doesn't actually make them cut that unit, because what they were doing was they were taking like some inordinately expensive Underworld's Warband that was like 160, 200 points in order to cast Magical Dominance. If they cut that and they just take another Slaughter Priest and like a unit of Reavers, they can still keep the Claws of Karnak.
Yeah, they've gained 50 points in a lot of cases.
Yeah. So it's not a problem at all.
Okay. Yeah. So Khorne, second best army in the game after Feck.
Probably.
I think.
Yeah. In the hands of a good player, it's still a very high skill ceiling army.
Yeah. Arguably stronger. I don't know. I see the Feck hype train. Like I'm not going to deny that they're strong or anything, but I'm not completely convinced that they're best army in the game yet.
Okay. You want to drive up here? Give me like 3 games. I'll throw 3 lists at you right away.
It's like Xeno sucks. It's like FEC sucks.
No, I've seen FEC. I see what they do. And like
I know.
obviously,
Xeno, I'm clowning on you. I'm not. I don't actually. You're a pretty good player. You've been like FEC for a while. But yeah.
Gristlegore is just so good now. Like it's actually good again. It feels weird.
I think people are too tracked into Hollowmorn. I think FSC has the same problem as like Khorne does. It's a very popular army, maybe, but it is a very high skill ceiling army.
And they want to play aggro, but that's not
it's like Khorne has like 2 kinds of players. There's people who think of Murderlust as a way to get into combat, and people who think of Murderlust as a way to deny you battle tactics. And there is like a legion of experience in between those 2 players, and I think Flesh Eater Courts is going to have the same sort of problem.
Yeah, could definitely see that.
So what you're saying is that the brainless move forward hit stuff list that terrorized 2nd edition is now the techie hard to play finesse list in 3rd edition.
No, what I'm saying is the army that was about 40 geometry in the 2nd edition in order to get all your buffs in the same aura is now just as techie as it was before.
Gristlegore it's gonna be fun. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Now, especially the deeds on the mounted guy. That's such a good change. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Zangor is a 2-inch range. This is gonna be awful, right? And they made Jade Obelisk 120. People have been sleeping on the Jade Obelisk. They are a legit good unit, and now you're gonna see them double reinforced, and you're gonna hate it because I mean, Tzeentch is actually going to have anvils, and it's actually going to have a melee hammer. So they're still going to do enough spells to kill you and summon chickens, but now they actually have real units to go along with it. So, yep, this is going to suck.
Joe Cryer out there is like furiously masturbating over this. Like he was already running a unit of 30 Jade Obelisk, and he just like he used the what's that new guy's name? The one who was
Teleport?
across from Domitan Storm Coven.
Ephraim or
Oh.
something? Ephelum?
Yeah, Ephraim or something. Yeah, he would just teleport the Jade Obelisk in your face, and now you're
Yep.
blockaded in. 4-up Ethereal, he can give them a 5-up ward with Shield
Yep.
of Fate. And
Mhm.
if you have terrain, Jade Obelisk have a terrain destroy on a 3-up. They can
Yep.
smash to rubble. So, oh my god. Plus now they have 2-inch range Zancors. Yeah, this army has a melee hammer now. We already saw Caleb Walters running them with Purple Sun.
Yep. And Arcane
Don't have to do
Suggestion,
that
so they're like
anymore.
Rend 3.
Yep.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thaumaturge got cheaper. He's like already the best hero in the book, right? Like he's so
Yeah.
good.
He's the
Um,
best Antorian acolyte in that game,
yeah.
in that book.
Amazing. The Tzeentch is back, thankfully.
Tzeentch is good.
It's only going to be 4 months, I guess, right? Thankfully. Oh,
I feel like Tzeentch with the right pilots though is always good. Like they can. There's not a lot of people that really are playing it right now, but
yeah, it's like Corn.
it's still do a
Except
lot.
Corn's actually popular, and the win rate is suppressed by similar to all like the Stormcast players that aren't like
Exactly,
really good.
yeah.
There's a lot of Corn players that aren't playing the army to its full potential, and they lower the win rate. Whereas Tzeentch is like 3/4 of the Tzeentch players are really good. Like
Yeah.
There's
because
almost
the
no
army
bad
as a
Tzeentch.
whole. Yeah, the idea of the army doesn't appeal to anyone
Totally.
who isn't already
Yes.
a very board control-y player.
It
Yeah.
doesn't have like a strictly defined aesthetic in terms of archetypes. It's like this very distinct weird thing. So it's like most people who are into Tzeentch are, maybe this is too broad of a statement, but most people into it are into it for the rules, for the gameplay, not necessarily for the
Yep.
aesthetic, because it's such a weird look. It's got to be pretty niche.
They're blue players. Like if you play Magic
Yeah.
the Gathering, Tzeentch players are like your quintessential blue player.
Somebody was like, "Hey, what's the control army in Age of Sigmar?" And people were like, "Tzeentch." Like, cool, that's what I'm playing.
Exactly. Yep.
You
And
also
now
have to be very fast. You have to be able to play fast.
Yeah, and,
Mhm.
and
It's
now
like the
they
best thing to do against a Tzeentch player if you're not sure, especially at a tournament, is get out your clock. Put the
And-
clock on. Like seriously.
especially if they have horrors.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in general though, all their casting and stuff, like you put that clock on and you get really stingy about it, and you might just win because they don't finish the game. They run out of time. Like seriously.
We might have to do a live stream about clocks in this game. Maybe like in April or May. It could be our topic of the month to talk about clocks
Sure.
in AOS. There's so much to
Yeah.
discuss. Okay. Slaanesh still sucks. Yeah, so everything got cheaper. Obviously, well, not everything, but everything got everything that changed got cheaper. Keeper of Secrets is cheaper, which is good. It's still like 50 points off from the Unfettered Fury, which is what it should be. It should be like 330.
Mhm.
Keeper of Secrets is good, but squishy. The mask got cheaper, which is good. That's people really like. The mask is surprisingly good this season, denying magical dominance. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where people are already starting to tech into these units that can deny magical dominance turn one. So maybe you don't bring a wizard in Khorne or KO or whatever. You just go with an Nullstone instead. If Slaanesh was a strong army, it would be a stronger consideration. I think the most relevant thing here is the Demonettes getting cheaper, because Demonettes do a lot of damage, especially in invaders, where they can get up, like pump up their Rend to like Rend 3, Rend 4 sometimes. Like minus save, not the same thing as Rend, but you know what I mean. And they just tear through everything. Like 10 Demonettes just turn into witches and murder everything. So is it gonna be enough? Probably not, right? Like Slaanesh just
Yeah.
struggles right now. They don't have recursion. They can't take a hit. And anytime they get doubled, they lose. The game's over. If an enemy doubles you while in threat range, Slaanesh loses the game, right? I don't think I've ever seen
the
them
problem
recover.
as Doc, right? Like Doc, Deepkin, and Slaanesh all are functionally the same army, like in how they want to play most of the time. But Deepkin has fight first that they can rely on. Doc sometimes has Marathi, depending on the meta, that they can rely on. And Slaanesh has like -1 to hit in Glutos, which like
If they generate enough depravity, they can have another -1 hit.
yeah,
Which
like isn't enough to save them most of the time. I feel like they just can't. They're not fast enough. They don't have enough like which is crazy because the army's fast, right?
Mhm.
But I don't think they're fast enough.
They
to
were
really just
so
engage
much
think they
faster.
don't. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's about fastness necessarily. It's like they don't have enough sustain to be on the field. Sinest used to survive by summoning just like tons in the
Mhm.
last iterations, and like that's been toned down because they're using the same resource that they are for debuffs and buffs that they are for summoning. So it's like it's weird. They gotta like play this like weird balancing act, and like ultimately the problem with temptation is there's a chance you might not get any depravity out of it because it's in your opponent's hands really.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Your opponent will always make you have to play the army imagining that your opponent always makes the correct decision. And it's like
yeah,
when your allegiance ability is basically the bad version every time, like it feels kind of bad.
yeah, it's like if you fight a newer player who doesn't want to do math, they'll probably like give you some depravity. But it's like you fighting experienced players that are like, let's just assume it's always a no. I'm not gonna take the temptation.
Best case
So, yeah.
scenario for Temptations is like killing a long strike in the hero phase and then killing, like doing 3 mortal wounds in the hero phase and 3 mortal wounds in the shooting phase. That's the best case scenario for the depravity, the dice, right?
Yes.
Everything else is worse than that, and that's not a likely scenario. And then you get some armies like Feck, which just heal or revive it back, like they don't care. I'm talking about a lot about Feck, but you know what I mean. Other armies heal,
Yeah.
other armies have recursion. Slaanesh feels like it was designed very early in the edition, and then costed very late in the edition. Does that make sense?
I mean, their costs were kind of degenerate on the Blitzbarb archers, but
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
we mentioned that everything else in this army is overcosted, but the Blitzbarbs are severely undercosted, and because of that, they will just spam Blitzbarbs until they can't anymore, and after that, the army will be bad, which is what has happened now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They really gotta. Why do you think they're not buffing chariots? They should buff the chariots. They're a core part of the Slaanesh identity. Are they getting remade? Is there a Slaanesh Wave 3 coming, and that's why nobody wants to reduce their cost?
I don't know. Maybe it's because like spam generally worries people. Like the problem with like sometimes what happens is it's not that a war scroll is bad for its points. It's just like it hits that critical mass where like people suddenly just gravitate wholly towards it, and then one day you start spamming it, it just creates bad experiences for everyone.
You
And I
mean
think
like
a way to remedy this problem, and I've said this for like a long time, AOS needs a rule of 3 desperately. You cannot bring more than 3 of something. And then you can drop points on things that are thematic like that. Like you can drop points on chariots, you can drop points on, you know, the bliss barbs or like I don't know, but like we need rule of 3 like yesterday. Like the 5 Steam Tank list should never have existed, personally.
I could see that being a benefit. I mean, yeah. Does anybody like playing against mass Gorgruntas? Like that's a list archetype that's existed forever. Has it ever been fun for either play?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know how I feel about Rule of 3 because, like, you're right. I think gameplay wise, it's like strictly a benefit for the game. But like collector wise, like we're what almost 9 years into AOS now, like, and this has never been a thing. AOS has always been a more casual, fluffy game than a competitive game, like at its core. And so it's like I don't know. I feel like you're just like is it that big of a problem to like just axe into people for it? And I don't know.
I feel
Maybe.
like it would help more than it would hurt. I feel like most people wouldn't care. Like
Yeah.
it seems like most people would care, but like really the way you should be getting around rule of 3 is reinforcement,
Hmm.
right? So like and maybe you could like obviously you'd have to design a lot of stuff around it where it's like unconditional battle line can be more than 3 but conditional battle line can't be or stuff like that. But I think that's the thing with Slanesh chariots, you can make them cheap, but like there'll come a point where they're like 140 points for like a chariot or 120, and then they'll just start bringing like 8 or 9 of them, and that'll be like a problem.
I think the most elegant solution would be to have like a unique 1 or unique 2 or unique 3 system, right? Where it's like a specific number next to a unit, where it's like unique 4, you can bring 4 of this unit.
That'd be
Sure, I
cool.
could see that.
That way it's on a case by case basis. So like, oh, people are bringing too many Ideneth sharks. Okay, unique 4, done, right? People are bringing too many MSU fire slayers. Is that really a problem? Like that's cool, right? Like it's a melee unit. It's not spamming. It's not a big deal. Slow melee unit, 5-inch move or 4-inch even. So I think case by case is probably better. Remove reinforcement points and add the rule of 3. Oh man, removing
Reinforcement
reinforcements
points are so. I hate it so much. Like
they don't matter until they do, and then you hate them.
exactly. Like Skaven and Gloomspite players hate it, but it just doesn't matter for anyone else.
I think they realize reinforcement points are not functioning properly, because they started designing around them with like Daughters of Cain can bring an extra reinforced unit of witches. Nobody's ever done that. Not one player has ever hit 5 or 6 reinforcements in that army. It just doesn't happen. So I think they've realized that it's like, well, I hope they've realized it's not working properly, and it's actually just causing more harm than good, I think.
I think it was a good idea. I just think like we predicted when the core edition came out that they would do armies that would have more reinforcement points than your standard army, but they never did that. Skaven doesn't have a mechanic that says you have 6 reinforcement points instead of 4. Like that would be the first allegiance ability I would write into that book.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like if you're going to make a general rule only to have exceptions for armies that would be otherwise too restricted by that rule, and then everybody else just doesn't care, why does that rule exist?
Then just nobody cares.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, it's to stop things from, again, getting out of hand. Like, I don't think necessarily like having safeguards against spam is like a bad thing, because yes, those armies don't spam, but I don't want them to suddenly open up an avenue where they release a Warcry warband and now suddenly it's spammable. Like Jade Obelisk is battle line. Do I really want to see like, and they're so cheap now. Do I really want to see like 60 of those fuckers across the board? Probably not.
I mean, you could bring 2x30. That's within the reinforcement limit.
Yeah, but then I can go to crazy lengths, right? Splintered Fang would become like we would start seeing 90 Splintered Fang. And that's not fun.
We do. We already do.
No. We see 60. We see 50 now actually. Yeah. But I don't like. There's a huge difference between 50 and 90, and like when you consider the fact that things in this game can get 5-up boards, there's like entire blocks of infantry on 4-up rallies, 5-up boards, some amount of model recursion or entire unit recursion. I don't think it's wise to allow that kind of unit spam block buildup. For me, it's like a dam. Like sure, like maybe we don't need it because we're not constantly flooding, but I don't want something to just like randomly come in and just flood the meta because we now have to buy like 100 of these.
I think unique limits and then get rid of the concept of double reinforcing. I think that's the solution here. Every problem with the game is usually comes down to double reinforcing.
I don't know. I'm okay with reinforcement point. I just give the armies that like typically sort of revolve around like cheap hordes the ability to not do that, because good lord, if the reinforcement points did not exist, we'd be fighting like, instead of seeing like the 60-60 and then the 20-20-20 zombies, we'd be seeing like blocks of zombies that are just
3x60. Okay.
On 5-up boards, and I don't want to fight that. I'm sorry. Like
okay.
That's just
fair enough. Yeah, it's not something that needs to be changed right now. Like it's not an obvious problem. It's just like most players ignore it. Most armies ignore it. Why does it exist? Well, it's not obvious.
Yeah, and I want to mention something really. There's a comment by Barnaby Martin, and they said something I think that's super relevant. They had to up the Plague Monk size, the unit size, so something's up. I think that's a great way to get around this reinforcement point problem. Like I think you limit the spam with reinforcement points, but things that are typically hoardy, you just give them like that option as a default. Like they're rats. They're already numerous. I don't think Clan Rat should ever exist in sizes below 20. I don't think Crypt Ghoul should exist in sizes below 20, or zombies for that matter. If they're meant to be numerous, then do that. But just stop that spam for gameplay's sake.
40k does something really cool where they dictate the unit sizes. They don't have this concept of just adding more models to a unit. It's like you bring 10 warriors, you bring 20 warriors. If you bring 10, this is how much they cost. If you bring 20, this is how much they cost. There's no like per squad thing. So like if 20 warriors and Necrons ever becomes a problem, they can just add 30 points to it or whatever.
I mean, like that's what they did in second, right? For us.
Yes, but things got cheaper. Things got cheaper in second, which was a whole other game. John, you won't believe this, man. Can you imagine getting a 20% discount on a unit if you brought it double reinforced?
That's wild.
But like the concept is there, right?
Think of the rally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
rally.
Yeah, let's close this off at the pass. But yeah, basically, I think they just the Skaven book, in my opinion, is not designed well. There are things that they need to promote in that book that they didn't promote, and like the book is a mess in sorting out the clans. Like it's unfortunate. That's unfortunate, but I don't think they should get rid of reinforcement points. Like I don't want to see what we're seeing with like zombies and Splintered Fang, and I don't want to go back to those 90 Witch Elf lists either. So
Yeah. Okay, you made a pretty good argument. Nurgle. The big change here is that Sloppity Bilepiper no longer prevents pylon moves, which is great. That was totally awful. Everybody hated it.
Huge change.
Yeah. Now it's -1 hit, which it's a lot worse. Does this kill Nurgle competitively? Like, they were really being propped up by the Bilepiper Glotkin combo. That really just carried them to a lot of easy wins against melee armies, and now that they just don't have that, are they okay? Like, have you guys played against a lot of Nurgle lately? Like, what did they pivot into?
I've played against a couple Nurgle lists recently. One of them was Sloppity, and it was like when Sloppity works, you feel like you can't do anything, right?
Crazy.
You're just like I literally just lose because this thing is sitting here and just making it so I can't move. Um, and the other Nurgle list that I played actually didn't have Sloppity in it, and I think they're probably fine. I don't think they're going to be like top tier or anything. But like Blight Kings are good. Blight Kings are very good.
Always. They're intense.
Yeah.
They've always been good.
The other stuff is good. Like the flies are still good. Glotkin is
Still good. Yeah.
Yeah, still pretty good.
Countercharge is
Yeah,
just a
he's
really
great.
good ability. Really,
Yeah.
especially
Yes.
a countercharge in the movement phase. Like, that's so wild how good that is.
Mhm.
Is Gutrot Spume, is he the reserves guy?
I do not know.
Yeah, I don't know. He makes the ship of decay or whatever, and you can bring more people in it. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, you can put him
They
on
can
a table
they
edge
can
or
drop
something.
in. Yeah, it might be.
Maybe somebody in the chat can
But-
confirm that for us. But if he is, then maybe they pivot into like deep striking Blight Kings.
Deep
yeah.
striking Blight Kings is so hard though, because if you
Yeah.
miss that 9-inch charge, they just move away from them, and then suddenly the Blight Kings are
Yeah,
gone.
they're too slow. It's like our paladins. They're just too
Yeah.
slow.
They have to be in the middle of the board. I don't think they can come in from the side.
Hmm.
I want to ask you guys though, like, is the the Sloppy Bilepiper thing? Like, yeah, I've been in really shitty situations where like 4 dragons are stuck and can't move. But also, I've learned to work around it a bit. It really did get a lot stronger with the Lookout Sir,
Yeah.
and I feel like taking away the ability like isn't necessarily like the greatest
Yeah.
thing like for the player base. Like, part of me was like, why didn't they make it so maybe a summon Sloppity can't play the song, or maybe if the Sloppity is playing the song, it can't have Lookout Sir apply, or like, I don't know. There's other ways to like,
Mhm.
I feel like,
Yeah.
approach this rather than taking it away entirely.
100% agreed. I thought what they should do is make it like the Drakesworn Templar's ability, which reduces it to 1-inch. So instead of a 3-inch
Mhm.
pylon, you would just have a 1-inch. So it still has that effect. It's just there's a little bit of wiggle room. Like, you're not completely shut out of the game if you get locked into that. So
Mhm.
I think it's like it's just so oppressively strong into other melee
Yeah.
armies. And it's like a
Yeah.
big part of how they design and balance the game is like, if people have no fun with a certain matchup, they will make changes to the game no matter how balanced or strong or weak the army is. They will get rid of it if it's objectively not fun. Like, if people are having a bad time, it doesn't matter how balanced the game is. What matters is that the game's fun.
Well, the thing is, they needed to change it after the Lookout Sir change.
For sure.
Pre that,
Yeah.
I could have agreed that. I know Artorias was mentioning, he doesn't like nerfing a thing because people don't like playing around it. Thing is, they were
Mhm.
specifically removing tools that let you play around it. Like
Totally.
shooting was a good, shooting was a good tool against that thing, and I'd be fine
Mhm.
if I could still shoot him. But if I can't, then I'm sorry. Like Paul said, I would have preferred that change that you just mentioned, that changing a pile into 1-inch, because that still keeps things sort of relevant. But
I
it
think
could not continue to exist.
I think it just
in
had
its
to be
current
changed
iteration.
though, because it was so
Mhm.
oppressive against melee armies. That matchup was like,
Yep.
you're playing Ironjaws into this. What do you do?
Yeah. And I
just
mean,
looks-
like, ultimately, this is maybe kind of a weird take, but it's like the War Scroll just got completely updated, right? It's like a new Battle Tome came out for Nurgle, right? Like, things change in this game a lot, and that's just kind of the nature of playing this game. So I don't think you should ever get like attached to a unit. Like, I want to play this army because I like doing Sloppity Bilepiper stuff, I I don't think there's really anything in the game that like sticks around like consistently. Like, is there anything that's been the same from first edition to now? Like,
Marathi. Easy.
yeah,
Next.
fair.
Next question. Let's go. Come on.
No, but I get your overall point, but it's like, Stormdrake Guard were like, it's not that when Stormdrake Guard were at their zenith, they still weren't like winning everything. Like second edition books were still being, they had the capability to like punk them with like third edition rules. But it was just such a bad experience to be blockaded in your zone by like 9, like what was it, 18 wounds? So it's like some crazy like 86 or 90 wounds of like 3-up save dragons breathing fire on you. Turn 1 and you couldn't move out of it. So that I totally understand. But this is one of those things. It's like, yeah, what does Slaves of Darkness do when they fight Nurgle? What does Iron Jaws do? It's like, cool.
Do you guys remember Gargants before they got their new book? I could be making a mistake here, but I'm pretty sure it worked this way. They always counted as the max number of models on objectives. It didn't bracket. And that,
Yes.
I remember hating that so much because it was just not interactive. You either did the damage or you lost. And
it resulted in a playstyle where they would just not fight.
They would retreat to win. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that needed to change, and they made it more interactive. Like, the key here is interactivity. If you're slaves, if you're Iron Jaws, you can't interact with a Nurgle player, especially now that the Glockkin is around countercharging you. Like, the lockdown is just too much. So this isn't made for balance reasons. This is made because it's just not fun for some players. So, yeah, Mergonk, what do you think about these point changes?
Oh, I mean, it's fine, green across the board, and I don't know why Morbidex went up. Like, what was going on?
What even is
Like,
that?
He's
I don't
the
know. I've never
guy
seen
who
him.
heals, right? The 3-up save healing guy. Isn't that Morbidex Twiceborn?
Is that
You
like
can.
the whole army?
I don't heal half the wounds that have been allocated to this unit at the end of the battle.
Yeah,
I think.
he's in every list,
okay.
right? Like, almost everyone uses him.
Yeah, he's got like a Golmaraz attack. Like he's got 5 Golmaraz attacks. And
There's no reason to buff or nerf him. It's like when Hex Wraiths got nerfed that one time. Like, that's what this is. It's like, I'll get you. I'll remember this game.
Yeah, okay, sure. Someone had a bad time.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Skaven, mostly green. Bells got nerfed, right? 20 points more. Is that going to change anything for the bell spam though? Like, realistically, if a lot of other stuff went down,
bell maybe one less bell. That's it.
Yeah. They cleaned up
They were taking 2, right? Weren't they only taking 2?
some lists were taking like 4 or 5.
4 or
yeah.
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that adds up.
But like, what else are those lists bringing? Or is anything on this list make up the point difference that they could still bring 4 or 5?
No, it just makes some other lists better. Like Thankful, after he could no longer use what's that thing called, Lock-On or whatever.
Lock-On, yeah, the skateboard.
Yeah, he was like really in the dumps. So like, I understand the point cuts on him. Vermin Lords is always nice to have a points cuts on. You don't hate it. Basically, it gives you space for like a triumph or an endless spell or something. Warp Lightning Cannons is really nice. There's some people who like to meme on people with like 3 Warp Lightning Cannons, and like it'll excite some people. Plague Monks, though, I think that's a good change. I think that squad size change is like a good idea.
And I think Plague Sensor Bearers going up is also relevant, because I think Plague Sensor Bearers were close to that critical mass of you just take Plague Sensor Bearers because they spam and are so good. And I think this 10-point change is a preventative measure for that, which is
But
good.
they are paying very close attention to Skaven right now, right?
They have to.
They have
to
to.
know. They have to.
Yes.
This book is such a flop for Skaven.
They can't.
They
gotta give up some. They gotta generate some excitement for Skaven leading into the summer. So this, I think, part of the reason might be that. Part of the reason they got changes, because like, yeah.
The only thing that's really spicy that I want to mention is that Plague Claw Catapult. 90 points for that artillery piece.
It's gonna get allied in a few armies, I think.
Yes, and you could easily bring 4 of these babies, or like at least 3, and like they will put in work. Like they're actually not that bad.
Warp Lightning Cannon.
Once you start taking so many of them, like it evens out their consistency, right? Because the problem is that they're one shot, right? And so you just like, oh, my 90-point shooting thing missed, which you're kind of like, whatever. But now that you bring 4 of them, you're like, okay, now I got 4 shots and I can actually blow up this unit of zombies
reliably. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Warp Lightning
and
Cannons.
I think you're on 2d6 if you
Yeah,
2d6
2d6
damage if you target like 10 or more models, I want to say.
Yeah, I think it's 10 or more.
Yeah.
Is this going to be enough to raise Skaven? Because I know a lot of competitive players are really hot on Skaven because of the bells. Is this going to be enough for the general audience, though? Probably not, right? Like the book needs a rewrite.
So, okay. Dylan and I know this person called Carl. Actually, he's been on our channel. He's the IDK guy.
Yep.
He loves Skaven, right? And he's been running this weird list where he's like runs a mix of shooting with warp lightning cannons, Giselles, and like the poison cast throwers, like globe bombardiers or whatever they're called.
Yeah,
something like that. Poison globe bombardiers.
Mm-hmm.
He runs rat ogres and he recurs them with that command trait that Mulder has. And
I've seen that
doing pretty well with that list.
But doesn't that command? It's a command ability for starters, which means good luck against cities, and also requires rolling a 3-up.
I was gonna say you have to roll for it, which is so tragic.
So you now have to pass a 4-up, 3-up, which I'm sure you've swung an attack with a Liberator, and you know how reliable that is.
Yeah, you're right.
So
but I'm just saying, like that the playstyle that Skaven has is you either go the full meme, the warp lightning cannons and Skyer or whatever, dual wields and warp lightning cannons. You go bell spam, or you go like rat ogre supported by plague sensor bearers or whatever. Like plague sensor bearers are pretty common in every list. Actually, they're pretty good hammer units. So
yeah. While we've been streaming, we've had a couple people submit Night Vexilers to the painting contest.
Hey,
that's pretty nice. Thank you.
Sweet. Okay,
Nice.
Slaves to Darkness. Demon Princes just do more damage, like a lot more damage. They went up 2 attacks on the axe, which is actually +4 damage total, plus 2d3 on the sword, and then +4 attacks on the claws, which is +8 max damage. So many questions. Why? Why now? Who?
I kind of like this.
I love it. Why?
I was gonna say I love it, but why now?
That model is incredible, and also just like no one wanted to even use it. Like they would roll their eye of the gods and not even want to take it. You know what I mean?
Do you know who buys the Demon Prince?
Everyone who bought the starter box?
No, 40k players.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty awesome. I have one of the old ones actually.
So I think the funny change here too is that Thedra went up despite no longer being usable for the reason she went up.
John, can you show that again? Sorry, I missed it.
This old guy?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Corn Demon Prince.
Look at that chonker.
Yeah. He's pretty awesome. But the new model's like real nice, and nobody wanted to play it. So I think this is great.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's mainly because there's someone in that GW studio who loves their list with like Demon Prince, Chaos Warriors, Chaos Knights, and every time they like lose to like an army, they make sure that army goes up. Like that person might have actually lost to Morbid X Twiceborn. That's why it went up 10 points. So
they got sloppy.
They were like, damn, my Demon Prince couldn't kill the Morbid X. I'm sorry, I need the attacks on it to go up. It's like cool.
Look at this though. 24 max damage on this guy. That's how much this hero should do, right? Like he should hit like a unit.
Yeah.
And if a Demon Prince can do it, then so can Stormcast heroes. Like we can hit harder than 10 max damage, right? That's not an impossible ask. So this is good. This is a good change.
This is a good change. Yeah.
Everybody wanted this. Everybody you talk to that has a Demon Prince is like, yeah, his damage sucks, but I just like the model, so I'm bringing it. Or
yeah,
like,
he's cool, but I won't play him.
Yeah.
And that's all he needed.
But people will start playing him a lot more, or keeping him when they roll the 12 or whatever.
Oh god, is Despoilers good? Is Despoilers good now?
No, I don't know about Despoilers. I know people were always bringing 1 or 2 in the Dark Oath list, so the Ravagers list, because the Trophy Rack gives you a Battle Shock immune aura, so there's a lot of stuff that avoids Inspiring Presence these days, but your Splinter Fang just don't suffer Battle Shock.
The people who care about this change don't know what Battle Shock is. They don't play the game on that level.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
They want the wings because it makes him fly, and that's all they need to know.
Yeah. That's fair.
Okay. Archaon's 40 points cheaper. Does this ever matter? Like, like Alero going down 20. Does it really make a difference?
I think so.
It's a fluffy player change. It's like if you like playing Archaon, it's like lets you bring a unit more or something.
Yeah. I don't think it's a competitive-minded change. Like, I don't think Archaon was bullying the top tables, but I think it's a meaningful change.
What makes Archaon interesting is he literally always survives a blizzard. He cannot be killed by one blizzard, which you can't say for any other centerpiece right now. Well, I guess Gargants, but, you know, they got other problems. This really is the blizzard meta, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, Flesh Eater Core. It's green across the board. That's what we like to see.
Like, this is a misprint, guys. Something's up here.
It's so stupid. I love it. Okay, FAQ first, because they combine the FAQ with the Battlescroll release. Usharon has to pick a different delusion, which again is not an errata. It is just a clarification, which means I've been reading it wrong. So I guess going forward, like with Zenestra's thing, effects that require you to pick things, I guess you have to pick different ones. I guess that's the rule. It's still not written anywhere, so whatever. We'll just infer it from now on. The Mounted Abhorrent generates deeds, so opponents cannot like just ignore the deeds or the wounds from the rider, which is great. That's a huge change, which means when you have Gristlegore, you fight first with a Ghoul King on Terrorgeist or on a Zombie Dragon, and then you can immediately fight with another one while you have 6 deeds, because you're pretty likely to get the deeds off there. Gorbane's Run in Charge has an ending. It officially ends at some point. Bless This Meal doesn't. Bless This Meal still lasts forever, and it can stack with itself. So I just have this visual of... And also, Usharon's a priest in Blister Skin, so you can have Usharon sitting there just blessing a unit for 4 turns before he finally digs into it on turn 5. He's just seasoning it, like he's just getting it just right, which is awesome. And then, of course, like we all expected, Crypt Guard +1 to wards does not stack infinitely. You cannot have units immune to damage in this game, thankfully, which is good. And then point changes. Nagash went down 105 points.
He's playable. He's seriously playable.
Oh yeah, Nagash is good.
Yeah, this is not an Archaon level situation. I think he's like competitively actually playable.
Yes,
I agree.
Not in Feck though. Absolutely not in Feck.
It doesn't have anything to do there. No.
No, he maybe you spam more Beg Knights. That's the extent of what Nagash can do. It's not good. Royal Terrorgeists are cheaper. They are now in the spam territory. So get ready for lists that have 4 of these things and a Grim Garland screaming 4d6 plus 6 mortal wounds at you or something stupid.
Yeah.
Every shooting phase until you kill all of them.
Wild.
And then guess what? You got to do it again because they revive. So stupid. I can't wait. Royal Zombie Dragons, a fair unit. By all means, Royal Zombie Dragons are a fair unit. Except now it's like too cheap because they're obviously...
-70.
-70.
What?
They were fair-ish at 310 when you could revive them and give them +1 hit and then make them move d6 after reserves. Like, all this stuff was like, okay, yeah, for 310, it's a bit much, but they're impactful. They're not efficient, but they're impactful. And now it's like, oh, they're both. They're efficient and impactful. Bring 3, bring Usharon, bring a Ghoul King on Zombie Dragon. Have a great time. Awesome. Cryptghast has a niche, being a cheap hero. 80-point heroes should never be overlooked in this game, especially...
He's the cheapest courtier, right? Because
yes.
Wouldn't that make him the cheapest priest?
Cheapest courtier, cheapest priest, cheapest hero in general. And if you're looking to build out like a double warlord or like a warlord acolyte situation, cool. He's still a worthless war scroll that only has 4 wounds, so like 2 comets kills him, which sucks. But he's only 80 points. So that's a niche. That is a niche in this game.
You can use it to score tactics if you have 80 points. Put him on a corner somewhere.
Yeah.
Let into the Maelstrom.
Anything.
Let into Maelstrom, intimidate the invaders, surround and destroy, whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 80 points. Do whatever. Who cares? He's like he's slightly more expensive than a Chalice. Like, it's not a big deal.
Mhm.
Which, by the way, is missing from this. The Chalice is just not anywhere on this slide, which is amazing. The best endless spell in the game is so good. Remember when they rounded points for Stormcast and they all went up? Lord Relictor up, Gardas up, Chariot up, like all this stuff that was like 115 or whatever, all went up. Liberators were 120 points. They all rounded up. Everything here rounded down. So the Infernal is now 5 points cheaper, which is great. He's in every list I build. Vargulf went cheaper, which is good. Like, I'm not sold on the Vargulf still, but he's one of those like the Demon Prince. He does real damage and he's a hero. So I like this design. I hope they keep doing more stuff like this. And then the Beast Flayers, one of the best units in the book, got cheaper. You're going to see 2x20 Beast Flayers in Hollowmourne with Usharon and a Chalice. That's going to be a real list, and you're going to hate playing against it because you can't kill them fast enough to match their revival. Like, they don't have to do damage.
Yeah.
They'll just outnumber you. It's like, it's dumber than the zombie spam because you don't have to start with 180 models. You just bring that many back over 3 turns. So stupid. Yeah, I'm fully convinced Feck is the best army in the game. If you guys aren't agreeing with that, would you say it's still S tier or is it like A tier for us? Like S is like too strong, A is like above average, let's say. Like great, but not too strong.
I don't have enough experience against it to really make any like wide conclusions. From my games that I've played against it, which I think is like 2, maybe 3 games total, they feel about on par for like a new book, which is like they're good, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm being backbroken by it.
Okay.
But like I said, I don't have very much experience against them. So
Yeah, I played them twice, and like the chalice was incredibly powerful. First time I was playing with like it was behind something, and it was like impossible to get rid of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem. I think if they could address that, it would help a lot, but they decided not to. But I think time will tell. I don't know for sure that the rest of it's broken. I think some of this like zombie dragon stuff is a bit strange to see.
I think it's the Beast Slayers. Beast Slayers cannot be 110 in this army.
Yeah,
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
Insane.
220 for a reinforced unit of them it's insane. Like you're actually going to see 2x20 as a staple, and you could even see some lists go up to 3x20 if they scoop Oshiran, for example.
yeah, and they're hard to move.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's gonna be wild. I'm bringing zombie dragons tomorrow, John, so look forward to that.
Nice.
I hope. I gotta find do you have 130 mil base I can use to proxy? I'm missing 1 dragon.
I'm sure I have something.
Okay.
Is there anything in Stormcast that has that?
No.
130?
Anyway, we'll talk later. We'll talk about it later.
Okay. Yeah, I have some corn too. I'm sure I have that.
Probably. Okay. Night Haunt. Everything has 2-inch range now. Great. That's how it should have been right from the start.
Yes. This army's been unlocked.
Yes.
It's like a DLC has
vets,
been,
baby.
like it's like oh dude, Dreadside Harridans and Bladegeist Revenants are like really good now, especially Dreadsides.
Yeah,
No
Harridans
wards,
are
no
super
bodyguards. I want to say like they have 4 attacks a model, so it's like
Yeah,
a unit
4
of 10 for
attacks.
160 on the charge. Let's assume you get the Wave of Terror for -1 save is like 41 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1/1, and you are -1 to wound them back.
Mhm.
Insane.
Yep, you bring a
Insane
double
value.
reinforced unit, you bring -1 damage from the Cruciator, you bring Shade Mist for another -1 in case they have a +1, or you just, have it defensively as well. 5 up ward with Seal of Shaiish cast out of Unbinding range. It's not that scary because the Nighthawks still have problems, like they're slow. 8-inch move is not fast enough. But man, when they're grinding, they're really good at it, and Harridans especially are good at it now.
And I
The
think
thing
the
is, like,
Gash
even
is a
Bladegeist
meaningful-
Revenants.
Yeah,
Mhm.
charge them to death.
Yeah, Bladegeist Revenants, like even 10 of them have 3 attacks on the charge, 30 attacks at 3s and 3s, plus mortal wounds. They already have Rend, so they could be -2 Rend.
Usually 2s
Wave of
2s because you
Terror.
got the Guardian and the all-out attack, right?
Oh yeah, Guardian of Souls. I totally forgot about that +1 to wound aura. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good.
It's a scary army again, finally, which is good. But is it enough? Like, there's stuff that turns off commands, there's stuff that turns off wards. So like they have the worst version of death recursion out of all the armies. They are, especially now that spirit hosts count as wards, there's a lot of anti-ward stuff that they just can't pass wounds off to the spirit hosts anymore. So maybe the heroes just die now.
I mean,
But
I
not-
think this army is still pretty good. I think
Yeah,
the
I
new
think
Manfred Regiment of Renown is actually a pretty good buff to them.
Oh yeah, just throw a tar pit in your opponent's way. When you
definitely.
Bellbats for tactics. Manfred is a fast monster that can charge for you, do monstrous actions for you.
I could
think
even
it's nice.
see the Usharan regiment here, because when you crunch the numbers, if you revive the Crypt Guard and you revive the Morbeg Knights, it's something like 90 points for Usharan, which is like, you actually get a ton of value out of that regiment.
The regiments are all so weirdly costed. Like the
Yeah.
Manfred one, like it's 630, I think, which is just insane. Because you get Graveguard in there too, and you can auto charge the Graveguard.
And they get +1 attack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's just like, hey,
Oh, I forgot. They get +1 attack. Oh,
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah,
It's
it's bad.
Yeah, I can see that.
Season of death, baby.
We're in destruction, realm of destruction. It's a season of death.
Well, they are going to be the protagonist next edition.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah.
And Nagash is good now.
Yeah, let's talk about Nagash and Night Haunt. Night Haunt has the best spell lore for Nagash out of all the armies, right? He loves it. There's so many good spells that he can cast in there. And then he can just do the thing that Night Haunt don't do, which is just revive destroyed units. That's something Night Haunt is crucially missing. And between the cuts to Nagash and the fact that all of your hammers are way more efficient, and now when you revive them, you get twice as many models back because you're bringing reinforced units instead of MSU units. Like, so instead of reviving 5 Harridans, you're reviving 10 or 15, which is a huge difference. So that's gonna be a real list. Got any Nagash players I can play tomorrow, John?
Actually, seriously, the person we might set you up against plays Nagash often.
Oh, good. Death on death.
In Night Haunt. So
Right.
I don't know what he's bringing, but yeah.
Yeah, like I played against Night Haunt Nagash with the new Battlescroll this last weekend, and like the army is not just Nagash either. Like I blew up Nagash at top of 2, but like you have to commit to kill Nagash, right? And if you don't kill him, you either have to deal with all these units that come back if you kill them, and if you don't kill them, they just fully revive because you have Spirit, Guardian of Souls, whichever one brings back 3 guys.
Spirit Torment.
And then Nagash brings back 3. And it's just like the units never die. If they do die, then they come back. Nagash, if you kill him, you have to commit your entire army to it. And it's just like, it's good.
Yeah.
Like,
only hands in the chat
Who was
mentions
that?
they all take
Who's
Horfrost so
Jacob
well.
Shopper. I don't know. Do you know Jacob?
Jacob who?
Jacob Shopper.
Oh yeah, Jake. The death. That's Jake.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
He plays like all the death armies basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Horfrost on Harridans.
Yes.
Good.
Also very good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Okay, moving on. Bone Reapers keep getting completely reworked every Battlescroll update. Null Myriad is now a 4-up spell ignore, but you don't have to stay near heroes, which really opens up a lot of positioning requirements. Catacross's command is now an aura. It used to be a pulse. It is now an aura, so you have to stay near Catacross. You can't walk out, which is reducing the number of movement options you have. So that's kind of a weird mix. Tiny point changes to units that really don't matter. Like Vok Mordian going down is actually pretty cool because he knows the whole lore, right? So he's like a utility piece.
Yeah. He's the cheapest wizard that knows the whole lore now.
Mm-hmm. And then most OBR lists going up 40 points from the changes to Morghast and Guard. So
it's actually not that bad. I thought it'd be much worse. It's like the units that were the armies that were spamming 8 of those guys are gonna get hurt, but I was only bringing 4 of them, so I don't care. I like running more balanced. I don't know why Immortus Guard went up after the recursion nerf, but I guess they were like kind of degenerate with Catacross. So instead of hitting Catacross, they decided to hit Immortus Guard, which whatever.
Feels pretty good that Questers are finally cheaper than this.
I know, right? They started at 200. I was like, my God.
OBR in like top tables, the way, at least around here, the way we discuss OBR is like they're good, but they're really tactically limited. Their lack of movement, their lack of flying, their lack of teleports and reserves really kind of makes them a straightforward army. Like, you know what they're going to do starting from deployment, and there's not a lot of deviation from that plan in terms of possibilities. So it makes them a very obvious army. The one thing that really switches things up is when they get a double turn on you, but you can still kind of play around that for the most part, right? Like, you're not going to take huge losses because they don't really have any shooting. So unless Curse of Years goes wild and does like 20 mortal wounds, and like you're probably going to outmaneuver them and out-tactic them. They're going to fail a tactic at some point or drop behind on primaries. They're really limited tactically, and continuous nerfs to them is just really making them look a lot worse at the top tables. But these are obviously meant for the mid tables, right? Like, people at that level, people that aren't at the top level have trouble playing against OBR because they're such a good army at what they do at moving forward and hitting stuff and taking hits back. People really struggle against that tactically. Is that a good design for the game to have an army like that? That's
no, it's honestly like it's they dug themselves a hole when they didn't realize how stupid the recursion was on the 5 wound models. And once they took that out and they started raising points on stuff, they like the army is like too elite. It'll absolutely ruin some armies like KO. Like KO gets absolutely ruined by them because they take the aura of sterility with the -1/-1, and KO can't touch them. But then they'll fight something like monster truck ogres who are like, yeah, sure, I don't care. I'll just kill you. Like, so yeah, it's like a solidly mid-table bully army, and the fact that they don't have any allies either is like so limiting for them. They can only take regiments of renown, which I don't think it's possible because this army is already so elite. But yeah, it limits the army's like options because I don't even know what they do. Just continue to play Forum Morghast, maybe some Cavalos Death Rider, Mortis Praetorian spam. We'll see. I think they switch out of Null Myriad. I think this is enough for people to be like, okay, I'm gonna try Mortis Praetorians again or Crematorians again.
Yeah, Crematorians right now probably not. It's a shooting magic meta. Crematorians doesn't do anything against that.
Yeah.
Probably Mortis Praetorian, because what these shooting and magic armies want to do is just stay out of 3 inches of every single one of your units. Like, I'm going to charge this unit, and I'm going to be just outside of range of that unit over there. Like, just slightly. And Mortis Praetorians is like, no, you're not doing that. You're fighting me on your turn. You don't have a choice. So,
yeah.
I think that's going to be the pivot. Okay. Yeah, not much more to talk about with OBR, right?
Yeah.
Moving on. Soulblight, another mixed bag. Fellbats got nerfed. Why?
No, I agree. They should have
Really?
been. What are you frowning for?
Well, they're like
it's like a
they're like Aether
it's like a
Wings, right?
cheap unit. It's a battle tactic scorer. It's a meaty screen, and it recurs itself.
Yeah, it's just one of those changes. Like, okay, yeah, sure, I'm fine with that. Like,
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Prince Vordrai got cheaper, which is good. Terrorgeist got cheaper, which is good. It's not the feck Terrorgeist, don't worry. It's fine. White, is there a lot of bravery debuffing in Soulblight?
No.
Yeah, so Terrorgeist don't matter, right? Like, it's only good because Grim Garland exists, and you can get bravery 10 units down to bravery 8, and that's the only thing that makes it good. Blood Knights, -20. People are going to spam Blood Knights, right?
No.
What?
You know what's better than Blood Knights? Uskurgon True Blades. Everywhere.
But people like Blood Knights. They look cool.
They like Blood Knights. There just isn't enough support. I'll concede to you that you could bring one of them. You could bring a unit of Blood Knights, because you can have this weird thing where you can have a Vengorian Lord and a Prince Vordrai, and if one of them gets like the Castellai buff, Vengorian can then give it to the Blood Knights. But even then, it's just better to give it to the Escargon True Blades. They're just so good in that Castellai.
True Blades are really good. Blood Knights are really tanky, but like I don't.
What do Blood Knights do exactly? Are they just like
exactly.
like shitty retributors that have some charge mortal wounds and like pile-in mortal wounds or something?
They're not retributors. They're decimators without the horde bonus and 10-inch move.
That's bad. That's a bad niche. Also, the hunger is irrelevant on them because there are only 3 wounds. Like, who cares? Like, I'll just kill you.
And also, hunger doesn't actually work, but that's another problem for another time.
Yeah, I would have. I feel like they didn't really change that war scroll at all. It used to do the same thing that it used to before, which is like it used to like do these weird movement back and forths for some mortal wounds, and they used to hit you for like a bunch of, -1, -2 rend attacks, and that's roughly how the unit has stayed the same. I think they need to really innovate with this unit because I like the vampire part of Soulblight way more than the grave part of the Soulblight.
I think that's a common feel too. I know so many people who see the Blood Knight model, right, get into Soulblight, and then they're like, "Oh, this is what the faction is."
Yeah, this sucks.
I didn't want to spam zombies, but here I am.
Right.
That's also the messed up part because it's like, blood. You can't recur any of the vampires, but you can for like the summonables. But somehow like the vampires are still less points efficient than the summonable, which is wild to think about. So it's like, why do Graveguard have a guaranteed charge, that charge change ability on their banner? That should be like a thing on Blood Knights. Their only purpose is to charge into the enemy. They're knights. So the Blood Knights don't have that, but like these old decrepit bones just got out of the grave are really fast. They just Sonic the Hedgehog into you. Like, what is this?
Fellbats with Hoarfrost is deceptively good. Is that true? Are Fellbats actually a good hammer if you give them Hoarfrost? Is it like, or is this like a meme like with Gryph-hounds?
I think it's more of a Gryph-hound thing.
Okay.
It's a meme. It's a meme.
Okay, good. They did errata their battle tactics, so they're clearly, we talked about this with KO, they're clearly willing to change battle tactics. This one was such an easy one. It just required moving a summonable unit into melee, which was like Direwolves, pile in, you got your tactic. Like, you don't even have to charge. now you actually have to kill a model. So direwolves, like, they can't just reliably score this one because direwolves do about 0 damage. So this is actually a bigger nerf than it seems, because there's a lot of armies, like if you're playing against Stormcast and all you have in range is like a bunch of Tempesters, like good luck, 6 wounds on a 3-up, and I'm going to defense this, and you have no rend usually. So it's actually tougher than it seems to kill something with Soul Blight.
I mean, their playstyle doesn't change. It's still either they're gonna play the Manfred Legion of Night teleporting shenanigans with the summonables, or they're gonna play Virko's summonable spam.
Or
That's it.
wolves. Yeah.
I will give credit to Robert. I know he left the chat because he has stuff to do, but they are trying like different stuff. They're playing Lock of Eye, and Radicard the Beast, which people don't usually. So I appreciate him for that.
Yeah. I'm glad people are trying to innovate, and I think that comes probably out of frustration because people don't want to spam zombies all day long, right?
I think just the everything in the book is good, right? Like Soulblight as a book is just so crazy that like you can kind of play whatever you want. It's just some stuff is obviously better than others, and so you get people who have played that and they're tired of it and they're like, okay, let's try other stuff, and they're like, oh, hey, this is also really good.
I think I can relate to that. I miss reinforced retributors so much.
Yeah,
Right.
why not Retributors 2-inch reach? Come on, guys.
Who knows?
They're either getting
That's a good
removed or
point.
getting thunderstruck, right? Like there's no in between.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true.
all right, Gits somehow got buffed. No, not really. Bounders got nerfed, which is important. The sneaky snufflers got nerfed, which I wasn't expecting. I figured they would increase the point cost on Squig Herd rather than snufflers. But like the things people are spamming got nerfed, and then a bunch of stuff that people aren't really using, like all the spider stuff, got cheaper. Not too big one way or the other, right? Like the Bounders list are just going to lose their triumph. Maybe they might lose their triumph. Like it's not even a guarantee. Yeah, that's my analysis here.
That's fine. I think these lists are like making sure you can't take 30 Bounders and have like a 1930 point list with like 2 triumphs, which is yeah, this achieves that. So I'm happy. Like they didn't really need a nerf. Yeah, it's like the list is fine. They just double triumphs suck. Like you shouldn't be able to have a competitive list that is double triumph at 1920.
Yeah.
Yep.
A weird thing happens when you nerf armies like this, when you reduce efficiency of units that people are spamming. Sometimes what happens is the opposite. People actually double down on those units and they cut other things out of their list. So you actually end up with more of a spammed unit because you're like, well, okay, I can't afford to bring this cheap support screen or whatever. I'm just going to bring more Bounders. I don't think that's going to happen here, but that's definitely happened in the past. Like, remember when they tried to nerf Hearthguard in 2nd edition, and instead of bringing a single block of 30, everybody brought like 2 blocks of 20? Like, you tried to nerf them, and now people have more. Like, you just...
Yeah.
Well, the points changes here are good that they're done primarily on the support units, obviously other than the Bounders and stuff. But I think doing it directly to the units that people are bringing a lot of adds too many points, that the nerf would just be too big. So I think that's probably why they did it.
Yeah,
just to the support units. I think that's smart.
Shit like 65-point web spinner shamans. Why? Like that's why Kits are at like 1910 or whatever. It's like because you have 65-point heroes. Like there shouldn't be a wizard at like less than 90 points. That shouldn't exist.
Yeah, I agree.
And I
I don't
think
think any hero should really be below 90 points.
Some, like the Cryptgas Courtier.
melee focused heroes, I think, are fine.
Yeah,
to be cheap. I think
yes,
any
if they're
hero...
not priests, if they're not priests or wizards.
Yeah, exactly. Like
say.
Skull Grinder in Khorne is
Yeah,
80 points.
yeah.
I think he's fine.
That's fair. Yeah, that's yeah.
The Night
like,
Quester.
as soon as they become support, they need to.
Night Quester could be 50 and probably still not see play. Like
yeah,
he's competing with an.
I think Heraldor could be 80 points, and I don't think they'll still see play.
I would agree with 80. I'd probably play 2. Yeah.
Well, for 4 months before they remove
yes.
that model.
Look, I have 5 sitting on the shelf. I gotta do something with them.
What?
There was in 1st edition there was a sub-faction for Celestial Warbringers. There were, like, each of the sub-factions back then required a battalion, and one of the battalions was Lords of the Storm, which you had to bring a certain number of knight units, right? The Celestial Celestial Warbringers, when you played them, you had to take this battalion and you had to take a certain number of Heraldors, at least 2. And when you took them, they got to use their Horn Blast 24 inches away instead of 12. And they got to pick multiple units for the run and they used to just give run and charge, by the way. So they were just an artillery piece that would sound, and it used to be a 6-inch range on their Horn Blast off the terrain, not a 3-inch like it is now. So what they would do is like you would just drop 5 Heraldors into play, and suddenly every piece of terrain on the table is shaking, and everyone's taking 5d3 mortal wounds, and everything in your army is running and charging forwards. It was the best. It was the best play style.
Wow. Bring it back. Make it great again.
That's actually how I met Paul. He told me to run Heraldor with like 10 evocators, and I'm like, huh. And this is when evocators had 2-inch reach, so I was running 10 of them. It's like, oh god, this is really cool.
Dude, do you remember fighting in the hero phase with Anvils of Heldenhammer? And
yeah.
From outside of 3 inches, because it didn't say you had to be within 3, so you could just fight and then do the evocator blast. Oh god. So good. It was so good. All right,
I think the most degenerate thing wasn't even that. It was the Aether Wings in that list. But yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The countercharge Aether Wings.
Not even countercharge, just
not
move.
Even countercharge. It was just like, you can't charge. Aether Wings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Aether Wings was a 2D, like a free, I will not let you charge me.
Yes. So dumb. All right, ogres. A lot of green on here. Does it matter? Frostlord on Thundertusk? Maybe. Actually could matter. -20 there. Leadbelchers -10.
Why?
Mournfangs -20. Is Mournfang spam a thing?
Mournfang actually is played fairly often.
I was gonna say, I don't know about spam, but I think like a unit or 2.
Yeah.
I think Thundertusk spam is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why the Frostlord went down. What is that?
They have the Vulture, right? This is the one that has the Vulture, right?
Frostlords, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait.
And so you run 6 of them, and then you're just like, that hero there, pick it up. Like, because it's not effective by lookouts.
No, hold on a second. So this is not the one with the Vulture.
Oh,
That's
it's not? Okay.
That's the Stonehorn. This is Thundertusk. Thundertusk is basically like it's the one without the ward. It's like the
it's the
has
-1 to wound one. It doesn't have the Vulture?
No. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for melee weapons.
Oh,
That
okay.
This unit.
Well, never mind them.
It's the anti-monster one, basically.
Okay.
Because
I'm going to tell you guys a little story, especially John, because you didn't play before this. Thundertusks used to have an 18-inch range missile weapon that you rolled a 2+, and this wasn't a hit roll, by the way. You just rolled a 2+, and the enemy suffered 6 mortal wounds.
Wow.
Just
And so the list
Wild.
for first edition, for most of first edition and most of second edition, the only list ogre players ever played was as many Thundertusks as you could cram into a list as possible. And all they would do is move forward, and everything in that range would take 6 mortal wounds. Multiple times.
okay, they can technically still do that, can't they?
No.
it's just 1
Don't they
mortal
have a
wound at a time instead of 6
snowball
at a
attack or
time.
Well, no,
something?
yeah, but it's meant to, because it's a snowball. It's meant to affect.
Oh,
yeah,
it's
that
like
one.
so if you have like 10 or more models, I think they add 2 to the roll. So it's like,
I was
on
gonna
a
say, I think
four,
it's like
they roll
3
12
ups
dice.
or
Every
4
4
ups
up
or
is a mortal wound. So they take 6.
Right.
Mhm.
If you have a
Yeah.
certain number of models or whatever, but like against Stormcast, it's like on 6s. It's terrible. I love it.
Yeah.
It's the best.
You can't just pick up heroes with it.
Yeah. That was what made it so good. I was ready like, oh, your 6-wound hero? Gone. Oh, that other one? Gone. Look out,
Yep.
sir. I don't care. Like, it's not. I think it was actually not even a missile weapon. I think it was just an
I was
ability.
gonna say, it was just an ability, right?
Yeah.
You just
You could run and do
Fine.
it, I believe. I could be remembering that.
Yeah,
part
I mean
wrong.
that vulture is an ability now, so it gets
Yeah.
past lookout sir and
Yeah.
all that
I was
crap.
gonna say,
hate
yeah,
that
the
thing.
Vulture is kind of the
So
modern
annoying.
era version of it.
Yeah.
First edition was
Yeah.
wild. Truly wild stuff. Lead Belchers, 150. Is Underguts back?
Probably
No, because can you still shoot heroes? No, then
Yeah.
whatever.
Right, exactly.
the shooting
Lookouts
army.
are, I think,
Yeah.
kind of killed that.
If we were in a monster meta, yes, I think so. But without being able to shoot foot heroes, yeah, there's not much to do. But in a monster meta, they'd be good.
Mhm.
Trophy rack.
I mean, these guys, if FEC does bring back the Gristle-Gore train, all these units on this list become good. So
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think the Feck monster spam is going to be a popular list. People loved it back in second edition, so there's no reason not to use it again.
Mhm.
All right, orcs. Big Walk can't score both tactics. It can only score one of them. Sometimes,
Interesting.
unless you use a war prophet general or whatever they're called, Wargog prophet. So yeah, hope you brought a proper general so you can have a tactic. Does that kill Big Wa? Because they were kind of just winning by having a pretty good board game and then also scoring 5 out of 5 tactics every game. If they're down to 4 out of 5 tactics and then trying to pick up a 5th one, do they have enough in the tank to actually get it done?
I mean,
My
they're all
gut says
green over
yes.
here.
Yeah, like I think the tactics nerfs I think are very relevant, but I don't think they'll be as like, I don't know if oppressive is the right word, as uninteractive as they were. Um, and so I think they'll definitely go down, but I don't think the army's like dead from top tables by any means.
It'll still be a good army.
Hmm.
It's fine. Like, I like how they at least make the battle tactic a little bit. They realized what was going on. They're like, cool. We'll make Big Waz.
Yeah, because you used to just not play the game against Big Wa. It was like, okay, I'll play my game, you play your game.
Yeah, and it's like
Compare
there's no
VP.
like now there's actual reason to play the separate sub factions as opposed to saying why would I play separate sub factions if Big Wad just gives me 2 more battle tactics.
Mhm.
So I think that's fine.
Yeah, Iron Jaws. I think a lot of people are going to experiment with Iron Jaws with these point cuts. Like Ard Boys and Choppas or Magruntas in what's the one? Iron Suns, where you countercharge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually good. Instead of spending 360, you're spending 320 for reinforced gougers, which get all the charge bonuses and get momentum in your turn and then fight you. People are going to experiment. I still don't think that's good enough. I think people are sleeping on Ard Boys. I think their damage output is really, really good. With a War Chanter, you just whip them forward like a missile. You don't even care. And if they're in spell, if they're in what do you call it, Wizard Finders, now they got a 5-up ignore against the Blizzard that's about to hit them. All of that sounds a lot better.
I think you take the Anvil Smasher with them. I think he's good with them.
He's Mortal Wounds, right?
Yeah,
he's the one that Mortal Wounds. Yep.
You just launch 1 unit per turn with hit 6 mortals, and then that's enough to help them get through the Ren that they need.
Mm-hmm.
What's wild is the killer boss on Great Nash 2.
He just keeps getting cheaper.
It's so funny.
Every Battlescroll this guy's gone down. Like, imagine looking at Vandus Hammerhand and then looking at that dude, and it's like if Vandus kept getting 10-point decreases all the way to 110.
It's so funny because we joke about how overcosted Andrasta is, right? Let's not forget that, like, in the Dominion box, this was the thing that was fighting Andrasta.
Yeah.
Like, and this thing's a 100-point model now.
Okay. Knight Azuros, 120 points. Knight Draconis, 300 points. Knight Incantor, 120 points. Adjudicator, 180. Venator, 140.
God.
Vexilor, 140. Like, Lord Celestins are 130. Like, how is this guy cheaper? He's just mogging the entire Stormcast line. It's crazy.
Oh god, they really like, should just make a way to make them battle line. That'd be so funny. I want to see people run like 15 of them.
It's like, yes, it's like Rune Sons.
And literally the thing is, people just run them as anvils. Like Eli was just running 2 of them, souped up, and he just ties something up with a 2-up unrunable save. That's what. That's what
like they're.
It's not even fun. Like it's
race to the bottom to the extreme.
Yeah, it's basically the same as that stupid like Wild Piper thing, but like on a 2-up unrunnable like unit that'll keep chumping you down with mortal wounds. He's
the same price as 5 Vindictors from Dominion.
Yeah.
Except he can find a Stour and he can unbind.
Yep. Yeah. Like,
oh my god,
he's not bad, which is crazy. Like he's actually like. He's a melee hero.
I saw one of these tie up Marathi for 3 turns straight.
I believe it.
Like, I was like, oh my god, dude. Okay.
He's the best screen in the game.
I think this, sometimes showcases that not often, but at least sometimes points changes are being done because people aren't playing certain things and they want to make sure that people are cycling through and rejuvenating old model or getting
people are playing him though. I see people playing 2 of them.
yeah.
Like I've seen Cool Boys players bring 2 of this guy because he's also like a great battle shock immune guy because he just stays near 3 of everything and just stops them from running away. But it's like, oh my god, man!
I literally think his biggest problem is that he's a leader.
Like, yes, his only limiting factor is that every Cruel Boy list is already like 2 heroes down because they need 2 shamans. So they can max bring 4 of them.
Yeah, and so they're like, if we want like any kind of like battle regiment, just goes like out the window. Like,
yeah,
you're just...
Imagine if he was 9 wounds. Just the power
man.
of this unit with 1 less wound. It's the only thing holding him back.
Don't jinx it. They might do it in 2 months. And then,
Yeah, totally. Index comes out. Here we go.
yeah, they're like, cool. He's 9 wounds now.
90
Also, he's
points
100
now.
points. Minus 10. Minus 10 points. And he's
90.
9 wounds now.
Look, he's got to be cheaper than the shaman, the web spinner shaman, right? He's got to be 65 points.
Whatever.
I have a take here. I think Cruel Boys is better than Big Wa. Even before this change, even before anything on this page, I think Cruel Boys is actually better than Big Wa.
There's a player here called Austin. He's near the Chicago area. I think they only play Cruel Boys. I think he only plays Cruel Boys. I think he would agree with you. He's actually very excited about all these changes. He's the one that actually went 5-0 at LVO. He lost in the shadow because they paired him up against another Cruel Boy player.
Yeah,
He's
that's
really, really good.
I mean, how crazy is it that they're... Wait, no, the 2 Cruel Boys, one of them went 6-0 and one of them went 5-0, right?
2 of them went 5-0. They got paired up against each other in the shadow round, and then
Okay.
one of them went on to go 6-0. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, 2 different 5-0s from Cruel Boys. Cruel Boys to me feel like Stormcast. Like, they're... You look at the stats, you look at all... Like, it just looks like a trash army until you find the right player who, like, yeah, I can put this together. I know exactly what to do with this. And then they do really well with it.
I think Cruel Boys is always just dice dependent, to be honest. I think the army has to roll dice too much to be as good as Big Wa.
They cannot afford below average turns. If they have
Yeah.
1 below average turn and their opponent gets to go, and God forbid they get a double turn after that, they're dead.
Yeah. Well,
Artorias,
Big Wa like just doesn't have to play the game.
Yeah.
Or at least did
Yeah.
previously. It's a little
They're
better.
just
you score your tactics, I'll score mine. We'll compare VPs at the end of the game, shake hands, move on. Artorias Rex in chat says Wizard Finders are going to enjoy fighting Ghoul Kings on monsters. Yes, they are, because I really do think that build is coming back. People are going to love spamming monsters. Okay. Orcs, anything else to say?
Nope.
Big pigs.
Notice something. Nothing. No changes to Bone Splitter units.
I was gonna say Bone Splitters is dead.
That they don't exist.
No,
They don't
it's
exist.
because they're getting an update, obviously. I can't wait. I'm gonna love building and painting all my new Bone Splitter models, and I'll go back and make a catalog of every time you guys told me they were getting squatted, and I'll be so vindicated.
I didn't realize you were an old world player. Sorry.
They're not in the old world. That's the best.
the only
He plays them in
chance I have.
AOS.
That's
That's
the only
so-
shot I see is them
Dylan,
getting put in there.
Dylan, this is the hilarious part. So this is Paul from, this is our Paul, Polish Paul.
Okay,
whatever,
yeah.
Paul Jarzecki. We have another friend who's also called Paul. His first army in AOS was Bone Splitters.
Mhm.
He also has thousands of points of Bone Splitters that are just collecting dust because they're not good right now.
Oh
Yep.
boy.
Just forgotten by GW.
Yeah.
Somewhere out there's like a Bone Splitter equivalent of me who's
Actually,
Just-
oh my god, his last name is Boutel. I think he was originally from Canada too. Damn. Okay.
just doxing
So
everyone today.
there's a problem with like there's a problem with like Paul and Bone Splitter players.
The curse of
He
being
watches
Paul.
this. He knows. He knows.
It's fine.
He
We,
watches
we
this
will meet up and touch Bone Splitters together. It'll be great.
shit.
The Wargogs will stare at each other.
First one to blink loses. Yeah, actually. Okay, last army we're talking about today is Gargants. They had a redesign for their monstrous action. So before, their monstrous action was just like force a battle shock roll on an enemy unit, which was cool. Like, it actually came in handy when you were playing against destruction and some order armies. But they redesigned it because it has roar in the name. I think now it's just roar, but also if you make that 3-up, they force a battle shock test too. So on a 3-up, no commands, which means you can do this and roar in the same turn, which is really cool. You have 2 different shots at it, or you can disable commands on 2 different units. And then you also you have to take the battle shock test. So on one hand, it's a little bit worse because you have to roll a 3-up. If you're just trying to get the battle shock test, you have to roll a 3+ now, which is a nerf. But that unit also can't get commands. So it's probably better. I'm going to say it's better. Like, it seems like an improvement.
Definitely
overall.
better.
Double roar. awesome.
Yeah.
Roar is like one of the best abilities in the game.
Mhm.
Double roar is like faction defining now. It's like, oh, what do the Gargants do? Oh yeah, they can roar twice.
I think it
great.
is very significant. I think it's also worth noting that I don't know about most, but the people that I talked to were running the Army of Renown, which isn't this buff.
Yeah, they don't
So
get this.
yeah, so it's either you get to destroy terrain or double roar. And I think double roar is significantly better. So I think the Army of Renown's kind of dead in the water now.
Yeah, 5-up ward on King Broad is really cool and good, but double roar, man, how do you?
It's so
Yeah.
good. Like it's just
Great.
It's so good.
And then some minor point cuts here. Like I think this is enough that you can now squeeze. If you wanted to bring 4 Gargants and a Man Crusher, you can squeeze one of your Gargants into one of the less costed ones, like the War Stomper, and you can make that work. And that's probably better overall than running 4 really good Gargants. Like, tactically, it seems better, right? As for the Man Crusher mob going down 30, I don't know if that matters. I don't build Gargant lists, so I don't know if there's like some combination of like gate breakers and other things you wanted to put together, and now you can.
I know some lists got an extra little.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's relevant, but
For battle tactics.
yeah.
What's weird is that these changes don't affect any of the allied stuff, right? Like none of the mercenaries get changed. If you're running like Chaos Gargants, even though I think some of them are actually the same War Scroll, with like different keywords. So it's like it's good that armies have different points for the same unit, right? Like Feck uses a Terrorgeist differently than Soul Blight. Gitz uses, I think Gargants are still in Feck or in Gitz, right? Like you can actually just bring an Ale Guzzler Gargant. That's still a thing.
I think just the Ale Guzzler, yeah.
Yeah. So like, but that's just a Man Crusher Gargant. It's like the same thing, right? I don't know what the difference is, honestly. But it's good that different units or different armies have different costs for things. So I'd like to see more of that. Maybe just get rid of allies entirely, turn them all into regiments of renown. Maybe that might be the way forward.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's a bit of a tangent, but in my mind, those two things are the same.
I think it's also important, back on Gargants, I think it's important to note that they get the Nullstone tactic as well, which is very relevant for them because they had a hard time with tactics, and that's a pretty automatic one for them.
Would you? Yeah, that's probably better than hoping for Magical Dom. It's really, really hard to deploy a Gargant out of Unbinding range because their bases are so big.
I think it's much better, yeah.
Also, King Broad Stomp could not do Magical Dominance. They can't take Arcane Tome. At least, I don't think.
And they can take the Nullstone Myriad thing, right? Or not? Myriad,
yeah, they can. Yeah,
Adornment.
Yeah.
Okay, so both flavors of Gargants are looking better. Functionally, though, does King Broad Stomp add anything that couldn't just be rolled into the rest of the faction? Like, does it need to be its own distinct thing? Like, if you were designing a 4th edition book, would you keep King Broad Stomp as its own thing, or just roll it all together into one army?
I just make
like
that the default army.
Just
honestly,
they all throw terrain.
Yeah, the King Broad Stomp army I think is better than in every way than the base book for that army.
Even with the new double roar.
Wait, is Earth-Shaking Roar not?
It's not Roar.
It's not
Earth-Shaking Roar. So
yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I think King Broad Stomp gives Gargant something that like they didn't have previously, which is more movement. I think more movement is way more valuable to them. They get the Ogre Tokyo Drift thing they do at the end of the charge phase. They get 5 awards on one Gargant, which is insane. Like one of the main reasons Gargants sort of went down in win rates was because Amulet of Destiny got nerfed.
Yeah.
I don't know how willing they are to give that up. Also, I think King Broad Stomp gives them 2 shooting attacks because they get to like sunder the terrain and like throw it at you, but then they also have their like innate shooting attack on their own like profile or whatever.
Yeah, you get an extra shooting profile with King Broads.
Yeah, so I think that's very valuable to them. I think they stay that way. I don't think they move out.
I think double roar is
pretty good.
Better.
Especially with gate breakers.
But I don't know.
Templars.
We shall see. Yeah, just be Assault Templars and don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, we already are in like 90% cases.
We are right now.
Who cares about this? Like if Death is at the top, do they care? If Khorne is just running Scarbrand, Unfettered Fury, and Tony Bloodletters, do they care? about the Earth-shaking roar. And it's like,
Yeah,
if a Gargan
think
gets
so.
into a KO boat, do they care about Earth-shaking roar? Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this 3d6 charge being more prevalent as time goes on? More and more books have it. Or 3d6 charge after charging, I should say, like a rampage.
I hope it's not common. My God, that would suck to have to
Yeah, like
constantly
you're
account
talking
for.
about the monstrous action where you like charge over stuff, like
Yeah.
in ogres. Yeah, I think it's relatively okay on mod tribes, just because like sure, let them have their thing. I don't think it should be like a thing that exists in multiple books.
I'm actually of the opposite opinion. I think the time where I hate it is because a charge mortal wound thing just obliterated my screen and they're using it for extra distance. That is really hard to play around the potential of that. Whereas whenever I play against King Broad Stomp, it's like, oh yeah, they threw a bunch of stuff, but I have counterplay to that. Like I have save rolls and things like that. Line of sight. I have ways to get around that. Whereas like charge mortals are way harder to stop. And it feels like if they just charge into a screen and then 3d6 fly and ping mortals or whatever, like I don't care about that. What I care about is the charge mortals from the ogres. Like that's the thing I actually hate in combination. In a vacuum, the 3d6 rampage actually doesn't bother me.
It's not a problem. It's a problem with stuff like Kragnos, I feel like, because Kragnos really juices up the mortal wounds on them too, because he gives you an additional dice for your charge.
Mhm.
If Kragnos was like +2 to charge, and because you can only count like the dice roll, the unmodified dice roll towards the mortal wound thing, yeah, I could see it like, it's like a good thing. But I think like, I don't know, it's just very, very hard to play against sometimes, because like I remember one of our friends, Steve, they just lost a game purely because their opponent rolled a 17 on their 36 move, and they had accounted for like the average and slightly above average rolls. They had not accounted for it rolling 17, and so they rolled exactly all the way to the back, just completely destroyed their leg back line. I don't know. It's fine. Let ogres have their thing. I'm okay with it. I just don't want it more prevalent across like every book.
I'd rather
I've
ogres
always
have a
thought the
different thing.
rule. I've always thought the rule should also be that like whatever you roll has to get you within half an inch, like a charge. I find it strange that you just have to get within 3, because it almost gives you a +2,
Yes,
2.5 to your charge.
it's very.
You know what I
It's a
mean?
very good point. It's a very good point. Yeah.
It's also strange to me narratively why the Stonehorn suddenly learned how to fly, but just for a moment. It goes through walls and towers and jumps over stuff. It's like,
Well, technically, it's not flying. It's rampaging. It's trampling everything.
right, through a
Yeah,
building.
it's like Juggernaut through the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crashing through a building.
And then the building gets back together. It got better.
Well, yes, Kool-Aid Man, and it's AOS. It's magic. It doesn't have to make sense. It's whatever.
I just hope they redesign that. It's not a fun thing to play against.
Yeah.
It's not a fun thing to account for, and frankly, I think it's holding ogres back. More than anything else, the combination of charge mortals, Kragnos, and the 3d6 flying thing is really hamstringing them from making that army any better. So, like Marathi, I hope they nerf Marathi so that they can buff ogres. Hold on. I hope they nerf charge the rampage. I hope they nerf the rampage so they can buff ogres, but also nerf Marathi. Sure, why not?
Just nerf Marathi is really your whole platform here.
Just nerf Marathi so they can buff ogres.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for everything I had prepared for slides. We've gone a full 3 hours here. Way to go, boys. Final thoughts on this battle scroll? How big are Nighthaunt and Fireslayer changes? I'll start. I think the meta's pretty much going to be exactly the same. I don't think like none of the top armies were nerfed enough. None of the mid-tier armies were nerfed or buffed enough, and everything's pretty much going to be the same, but like win rates are going to skew a little bit. Like one less unit in KO, one less unit in Gits, maybe one less battle tactic for some of these armies. It's going to nudge the win rates here and there. I don't think it's going to, like, on a game-by-game basis, it's not going to feel anything. Like, I don't think you're going to play enough games to notice a difference.
Yeah.
I do think Khorne and FEC, if they are as strong as you guys say they are, I think they're going to kind of run away with the meta. Because like I feel like everything got nerfed that was top tier except for those two armies, and they got like side grades at best. And it's like I think they're going to be really strong. And so I think you'll see a lot of Corn winning tournaments. I think you'll see FEC with a really high win rate.
Yep.
But, I think in general, I think the mid tables are going to be healthier. Or upper mid tables, maybe.
Yeah, I think
So-
Legion of Night still stays winning. I think if you're like a really good Legion of Night player, I think you're still in a great position. Like,
Yeah,
you didn't
that's
really
true.
lose anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Soulblight
you
didn't really lose anything either.
Yeah.
John, what do you think? Battlescroll overall impressions?
I think Nurgle took a bit of a harsh hit. I think Zinch will rear their head again. I think they can be pretty good. I think some things are overlooked in that army. I have a friend who plays it very, very well. I've played him many times. He got like 11th at LVO.
Nice.
He's quite good. His name's Jean-Francois, and I think there's just a lot of things in that book that people don't necessarily do or combo, but the 2-inch reach is going to be pretty intense on the Zangors, and I just think there's a lot there.
Yeah, I think Zinch
I don't think
is
it
like
did much.
stealthily good. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
Zinch's potential is limited by how many people are playing them, not necessarily about
That's
how,
it,
like,
but that's totally it, exactly. I think there was 4 people at LVO. It's wild that played it.
yeah, and they're all dedicated Zinch players. Like Joe Cryer is like,
Mhm.
I've never seen him play anything else with Zinch. So it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Stormcast will probably stay playing Comet Fall and other
Hey, they
funky
can
things.
nerf
It's exactly
X-Lers,
the
man. I'll
same.
take it.
I don't
I'll
think we
take
got
it.
any
X-Lers stay
meaningful.
unchanged.
Yep.
We were talking about this before. One of the reasons maybe Stormcast didn't get buffed a lot in this battle scroll, despite our win rate, despite being specifically called out, being in the same garbage tier as Nighthaunt and Fireslayers by Matt Rose on the MetaWatch video. He said Nighthaunt, Fireslayers, and Stormcast. These are the armies we're most worried about. And it's like nothing. Like nothing changed for Stormcast. And we know it's because of us, right? Like the best thing we can do for Stormcast win rates around the world is shut down this podcast and never make another video. And then
I went 1-4 this weekend. I'm doing my part.
I think especially he was watching like my game with Korn towards the end, and like, yeah, like I have a feeling like they were like, let's just wait and see what Stormcast do. I feel like they had a lot more planned for us that they took back.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I do want to see some Vanquisher spam though. I know someone in the comments talking about that.
Yeah,
just
I want to
see
try it for sure.
Yeah, I don't really think it has much, but
I'll try it in like a 7-inch Scions list. I'll try like dropping 10
Exactly.
Vanquishers against
10.
something and just
Yep.
blending trying to blend something. But
we'll
2-inch
see.
range.
All right.
Everything's on the table now. Everything's changed.
Yeah, I mean, especially if like Fireslayers are coming back in a big way, it's just so weird. It's like this just pushes us into shooting even more. It's like, we can't fight Volkite blocks because they'll just fight first every time.
Yep, we just pivot into shooting. Like there's almost no shooting tech left in the game, right? It was a big deal in second edition. There was so much anti-shooting stuff. Like what is there now? Like nothing almost. Just OBR and their -1/-1. And it's like, okay, we'll just bring more guns. Like why not bring
Tempesters? And I think us allying in Command Core to stop most of the anti-shooting tech that they've really like put in the game is 4-up rally. That's been like the reasoning for 4-up rally existing, right, is to be anti-shooting.
Yeah.
And so you run Tempesters shooting and maybe a Command Core or 2 and just say bye.
Yeah, why not bring 6 Tempesters, a Charybdis, Command Core, and 6 Long Strikes? What's the argument against it?
Cruel boys,
6 long strikes. I'm saying 12 long strikes.
Yikes.
You have
9.
You have 15, don't you, John?
I have 12 right now.
Okay. All right. I can lend you some.
I got some stuff I'm writing. There's some Vigilers coming into there too.
Oh,
We'll see.
God.
We'll see.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Let us know down in the comments what you guys think about the battle scroll. If you are kind of indifferent about it, like I seem to be, or if you're more worried about it, like John, and just very concerned about Zinch, let us know down below. Special shout out to our sponsor, new and old sponsor, Leighton Gaming. Take a look for more information coming about them soon. Don't forget about our painting contest. Make sure you submit your Knight Vexilor so you have a chance to win Krondus or some Annihilators or some dogs. And That's it. Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you in the next one.
See you guys.
He was just gone.
I was gonna say he's out.
Oh, that was good. That's good.
That's good.